Welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political radio talk show. We are pleased so much to have another week where we are going to be talking about a lot of different things. We're going to have our first hour talking about reparations, and we have experts talking about reparations. We're going to be having the second hour of the vote, where we have Tamika Mallory, Midi Baraka talking about the importance of elections and voting. And in the third hour, we're going to have our DJ Rhino will be talking to Rashad Sun. And we'll be talking about all things hip hop and the state of hip hop through there. So, hello, how is everybody right now?
Good.
Doing great.
Good.
And Zayid Muhammad,
Yes,
you know how I when I ask you to introduce a guest, and you have to introduce the guest that we have, because we are very, 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 very honored today to have our guest, our wonderful guest, our person who Zayid is going to give a full, that Zayid welcome to civil rights lawyer.
They always cut me off, Nkechi, because I go out.
but we actually do have a legend in our midst, right? So Zayid, give her what she is deserved as an introduction.
But you know what, John? One thing is, peace, sister. Before we get started, John, people always say that we never introduce ourselves, right?
You're right.
Right into the show. I know we're not in the studio, right? Yep. We used to do it. We did it shipped on the mics and all of that, but we should introduce ourselves so they know who we are.
All right, sounds good. So who are you, my brother?
Well, my name is Ed Riley. I happen to be one of the co-hosts as well.
Not just a co-host, Mr. Riley. You are the creator of the show All Politics Are Local. Put it together, and as a wonderful human being. And Zayid Muhammad, my brother.
Now, see, Jonathan didn't introduce himself. See that?
I didn't. and I'm Jonathan Austin. I'm just a humble teacher working in New York, in Newark, New Jersey city, right? Like this beautiful city of Newark, New Jersey. That is where I work and where I play. So that is me.
And when people usually say they're a humble servant, they usually mean they got a huge background. They just don't want you to know about it. So a huge 30-year background.
Fair enough. So
having said that, both of these brothers, I'm very proud of Nkechi. They're the co-founders of the show. The show is how many years in now? Is it in?
I think it's 10 years now, right?
No, it's 12.
Wow.
12 years in.
12 years. Yeah.
Based in Newark.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds right.
We got started with baby Obama? When Obama was a baby?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 12 years now, John.
Actually, Obama is going to be germane to this conversation because there's a local twist to this reparations piece that I didn't get a chance to talk to any of y'all about yet.
All right, well,
it'll be an exclusive nugget. All right.
Sounds good. So, Zayid, let's get started with the wonderful introduction that you do of our guest, of our legendary guest. Let everybody know who she is.
The subject for the day is reparations, the long overdue debt due to the descendants of African people in the Americas, right, as a consequence of the transatlantic slave trade and all of the residual racist horrors that our survivors have had to endure since then, right? One of the leading voices on the matter of reparations, the national movement, is none other than Nkechi Taifa, right? A crackerjack Black Power warrior, queen, and lawyer, right, who's been one of our top voices on this front for a long time. She is a proud voice of the New African Independence Movement and a profoundly loved and respected, serious daughter of struggle and one of my favorite comrades over a lot of years. So we've got a heavyweight banger in the house. And we're going to be joined also momentarily, I'm sure, by Assemblyman Charles Barron, right, the elected revolutionary of East New York, Brooklyn, who just 2 days ago was proud to announce that his reparations bill, passed the New York State Assembly. And his reparations bill is different from the others that we know of or that already have been in play over the years of the reparations movement. And we will get into that. We will unpack that. And of course, there's more background to this discussion also. June 19th, right here in Newark, we will have our annual reparations march. Usually that is the People's Organization for Progress's baby. But this year, the People's Organization for Progress partnered with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, and the two of them together garnered the support of some 48 organizations that signed on to this action, and most of them will participate in the march and rally on Juneteenth at 12 noon at Lincoln Memorial.
Right, but we should save the announcements for when we get toward the end. So when we get people on, we need to repeat those announcements as well.
Yeah, but I'm just giving context.
But we have our guest.
Yeah, just giving context, right? And then, of course, in the National Convention, in Cobra Convention in mid-June, and I'll start adding that to on the screen in a little bit, right? So we've got some new developments in the fight for reparations, and on the local front. And this is the piece that I wanted to highlight. And Keisha can big picture the whole question of reparations for us, and that's often something to do because our people are all over the place with understanding the question. So we can do the basics with that. Keisha can certainly tell us about her incredible story and what brought her to this walking for reparations. And we can talk about some of the new dimensions. So what, is that good enough for our start?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but the basic question is reparations. Now, what for the audience? Why do we want them? Like people like reparations, and so just for the audience, is like, hey, reparations, what's that? What can we get them? Like, are people actually owe us?
Is it just a check? All of that stuff. Yeah.
First of all, let me just say I'm really honored and thrilled to share the platform with you brothers. I mean, I couldn't be more honored, and thank you for inviting me, and looking forward to hearing from Assemblyman Charles Barron as well. But in essence, reparations are the compensation provided for those who have suffered human rights abuses or any other form of widespread systemic injustice, or to their descendants, okay? Usually in the aftermath of war or enslavement or some other types of gross injustice. Reparations are due. Reparations is not anything new or novel. It didn't just drop from the sky with the publication of Ta-Nehisi's excellent article, The Case for Reparations, in the Atlantic magazine, or a decade or so before that. Randall Robinson's book, The Debt. It didn't just start like that. Reparations is a long-standing principle of international law that the United States is very much aware of and has in fact practiced. In fact, at the end of the enslavement era, most folk don't realize that reparations were in fact paid.
Wait,
they just weren't paid to us. They weren't paid to us. They was paid to the white folk. Okay.
Wait, hold up. White people got reparations for slavery?
They sure did. They got reparations for the loss of their so-called property, us. They were paid. We were not. We were promised in the aftermath of the Civil War, the 40 acres and a mule. That promise was totally and completely obliterated down to this day. So not only were we not paid, the land that was promised was taken from us. We were basically left destitute, penniless, and subjected to just forced rights. But it wasn't just that. Because after the enslavement era, after not getting reparations, they installed black codes, which further restricted anything that we could do. There was chain gangs. There was sharecropping. There was the exclusion from being able to participate in the Homestead Act, which granted large-scale acres and acres and acres of land to immigrants, just coming over here. We were not able to partake of the GI Bill in terms of home ownership. When we decided to just go off to ourselves and try to build up our own towns and our own communities, they were squashed. They were massacred. We were lynched. Any type of economic ascendancy that we attempted to achieve was smashed. And where the subterfuge was, there was a rape of a white woman or something, like always having something to do with the white woman. Okay. It really was economic envy. It really was the threat of competition that we had. That's what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's what happened in Elaine, Arkansas. That's what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the list is endless. You know, Rosewood, Florida. The casket must be open on all of these human rights abuses that have been perpetrated against us. And it goes down through to this day.
Wow. So you're talking about when thank you for giving us that introduction to reparations. And I think one of the things that I think people should white slave owners got reparations for losing property. Wow.
Yeah.
I most certainly didn't know that. You know what I mean?
I know, because we're not taught that in the schools.
Hey, you're the lawyer in the mix. You know, a lot of our folks don't know that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's because of the white Wilmington, North Carolina. The list is endless. You know, Rosewood, Florida. I hear myself. Yeah, so I'm saying it's a result of the white ethnocentric education that we are indoctrinated with in this country. So anyway. I don't hear.
John, you muted.
Muted, Jonathan.
All right, so we have Assemblymember Barron here as well.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming. I know that you have also been a champion of this issue.
Yes, but it's always good to see my sister. When I know I'm in the right place, when my sister's burning them, I saw her burning y'all up, so I know.
My cues from you, my brother. My brother's.
So good to see you, brother Zayid. And all
yes, sir.
And thanks for coming out and supporting us.
I let everybody know that we just had a big historic moment on the matter of reparations just a couple of days ago with your bill passing the New York State Assembly. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, first, I always like to start any reparations talk off, or any police brutality talk off, or any, criminal justice. We need a revolution in America. No matter how we address these issues, from reparations to police terrorism, if we don't change radically in a revolutionary way the system, and if we don't take control over our communities, then reparations without a black nation, without a revolution, will keep us on the American plantation, but they'll just pay us. So we need to always focus everything on revolution. And a lot of people don't like to talk about revolution because they don't believe it can happen. They believe that capitalism, the colonial capitalist system, is just invincible. And I always say there's no system that'll last forever. All of our oppression is temporary. We will win. And we got to continue to believe that. So in that context, in the New York State Assembly, there's about 150 assembly members, maybe 30, 40 of them are black and brown. And there's about 63 state senators, and about 15, 16 are black and brown. So I had my task cut out. I put this bill in a couple of years ago. And the uniqueness of our bill, and this is why they resisted it so much, is that when you're talking about reparations commissions, because there's several ways to get reparation: through litigation, through legislation, and through the streets, and rising up and taking it. So there's several ways to get it. But as you're involved in the legislative process, and if you go in the commission process, whether it's HR 40 or whether it's the task force that was passed in California, we always have to look at, first and foremost, who is going to appoint the people to the commission. And oftentimes, when the power structure knows that you're going to win and knows eventually that they're going to have to give in, they plan ahead. They'll say, okay, we'll do a commission. But as in the case in California, I think it's a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. It's a task force, 9 members. 5 of them are appointed by the governor, and 2 are appointed by the state assembly, and 2 are appointed by the state senate. So when I saw that, and I saw other commissions where the very state that oppressed us and put us in this condition in the first place, is going to have the majority members of the commission. I called my bill a New York State Community Reparations Commission on remedies. Didn't ask for an apology, didn't want no study to see if. We said, in fact, we were oppressed. We are due compensation. The people have been injured. A crime was committed. The people have been injured. Compensation is due, period. So the charge of this commission is to determine the amount, the form, and who is eligible to receive it, period. And the composition of the commission is where they had to fit. I started off with 14 members of the commission, 9 from the community and 5 from the state, 1 from the governor, 2 appointments from the assembly, 2 appointments coming from the Senate, 3 from NCOBRA, 3 from the December 12th movement, and 3 from Ron Daniels and the Institute of the Black World. When they saw that, they had to fit. But even with that, it got passed out of the Government Operations Committee and went into the powerful Ways and Means Committee for 2 years in a row. And after the Ways and Means Committee, that's when it goes to Rules and hits the floor. So they never took a vote on it in the Ways and Means Committee. So it would always sit there. Finally, this year, I said, we're going to really amp it up, man. This is ridiculous. All of this stuff that's happening in the world, what's happening with George Floyd and all of this demonstrations, people fired up, and reparations is being dealt with all over the country, all over the world, the Caribbean, Africa. And we sitting here in the big bad New York State with a black head of the Assembly, Carl Hastie, and a black head of the Senate, Andrea Stewart Cousins. We have so much blackness in New York, you would think we run the state, but we don't. It's called neo-colonialism. The new way to colonize us is to put black faces in high places and have them espouse the same policies as the white power structure. So we have a black head of the Senate, a black head of the Assembly, a black attorney general, state attorney general. We have a black public advocate. We have a black majority leader in the Assembly. We have a black majority leader in the council. We have a black borough president of Brooklyn. We have a black borough president of Queens, the head of the largest Democratic organization in the nation, the Kings County Democrat. A black woman heads that up. A black man heads up the Democratic Party in Manhattan. A black man heads up the Democratic Party in Queens. A black man heads up the Democratic Party in the Bronx. And we have a lot of black powerful union leaders, and we got more poverty, more police brutality, more unemployment than any other state probably. So that's absurd. That's neo-colonialism. New York State is a state of neo-colonialism. With all of that black power in those positions, you would think we would run New York State's $212 billion budget, New York City's $98 billion budget. Talk to me. If we have all that power, then why don't we take that $300 billion? The hell with Trump. Take that $300 billion and let's get rid of poverty and unemployment, and let's get into some community land trust where we can own our community and work in cooperatives. Now let me get back to my bill. Having said that, this year, I put some heat. I got about 30, 40 of the members of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian caucus to sign on to the bill. And by the way, I also got this caucus allowed me to set up a committee, a standing committee on reparations and political prisoners. And it was this caucus letter, I got a letter from them to send to the parole board to free Herman Bell, and it worked. I'm not sure it was our letter, but I know he wasn't freed prior to that letter. And we got Herman Bell out. We got Seth Hayes out. Unfortunately, he made his transition shortly after that. And then we just got Jalil Montague out, so-called Anthony Bottoms, but we got him out as well. All 3 of them I got a letter for, and I got Charlie Rangel to write a letter to help us get Mutulu Shakur out. And he was at the door, almost at him, but we didn't. So political prisoners and reparations has been my thing. This time when the bill went to the Government Ops Committee, I called up the speaker. I said, come on, let's not go through this again. Come on, Carl, man. Let's make some history. He said, you know what, Charles? I'm going to work with you. I was shocked at that. But, you be cool. You don't let them think that, oh, my God, he's doing this. So that was cool. It got out of Ways and Means. The government ops 10-4. All 10 Democrats voted for it. 4 said no. Republicans. Went to Ways and Means. By the time it got in Ways and Means, 25 said yes and 10 said no. So it got out of Ways and Means. That's when I knew it was going to happen. And then it went to the Rules Committee and it hit the floor. Now they were saying, oh, man, if he does this, we'll be giving this black radical all of this juice. And so they were fighting against even some of the Senate people who had supported my bill, went against me and wanted to make the majority the state. So I knew something was up. So finally they said, we're gonna pass it, but we need to sit and talk to you. We have some concerns. So I said, what is it? I said, you're asking for a $250,000 appropriation to do the work. I said, absolutely. The commission got to have money. So they said, well, we passed the budget already. So I said, then just put in the bill, appropriation financing to be determined. So we get the commission in place, and then we'll determine the finances. So they said, okay. And then they said another thing about the number on the commission. 9, your folk got 3 each, and the governor has 1, the speaker has 1, the minority leader 1, everybody has 1. Why don't we just do 1 for everybody? I said, come on, y'all. Now, this is where y'all are messing up. I don't have stupid written on my forehead. Because if we do that, that means it'll be 5 from the state. I only have 3 groups, so it'll be 3 from us, and you will have the majority. I said, let me tell you why that's not going to happen, and that shouldn't happen. Number one, you, the state legislature, has the final say. So after the commission does its work, it has to come back to you for final approval. So why would we want to give you approval over the process and the final product?
Right.
We are taking the process. You got the final product. They said, all right, because I had already figured. I talked to Viola Plummer, who's my chief of staff. I said, Vi, they're going to come in with the numbers. If we can get out of there with 6-5 and still have the majority, let's do it. So they said, could you break it down to maybe 2 each from the groups and you'll have 6? I looked at Vi. I said, what do you think, Vi? She said, I don't know, man. Why can't we have the 9? We did a Mutt and Jeff routine. And so we said, all right, we'll do the 6. We'll do the 6. Now it's 6-5. It went to the floor. And usually the Republicans, what they'll do is they'll lay over a bill. If your bill comes up and they say, lay it over, that means it has to go the next day for debate. Because they wanted to get into this debate, and everybody was looking forward to that because they knew I knew my stuff and we were going to rumble, and I beat them up all the time anyway. So people wanted to be entertained. So they laid it over. That was on a Tuesday, so they laid it over to that Wednesday. When Wednesday came, I said, I'm going to tell you right now, you have to agree to a debate. So they'll say, will the sponsor yield for some questions? I said, when they say that, I'm going to say no. I ain't yielding for nothing. I'm not going to allow you to get into, because they're lawyers, to your racist interrogation like you're some district attorneys around our issues. This is our day. This is our time. So no, I'm not yielding to nothing. When they got that message, my bill came up, not one debate. They all backed down. All of the people who were for it spoke, and we passed it 107-43. Even one of the Republicans came over.
And really, this is just to study reparations, right?
No, this is to have a commission. We ain't studying nothing. We having a commission that's going to show how we were injured, and that injury is happening right now, and what the compensation should be, and who should receive it. So I don't want an apology. We don't want to study to see if. We want to bring in psychiatrists, psychologists. We want to bring in economists to show the impact that it had on us. Because I told them in New York City, was the second largest slaveholding city in the Union, only second to Charleston, South Carolina. And in 1712, Africans rose up, tore this place up, burned things up, even the governor's mansion. And they said, okay, let's do some gradual emancipation. Africans said, oh, gradual nothing. We want freedom now. Tore it up again. In 1796, by 1827, New York City abolished slavery. But slavery was all up and down New York State. The stop that we get off in Albany to go to the lobby, to the chambers, is called Rensselaer. That's a slaveholder.
I think that maybe the audience might not recognize what you said, because this is one of the first times I've heard of legislation like this. It's not like HR 40 in the federal government, where it's like
step beyond that. It's the step beyond that.
This seems like it's way beyond that, right? Like this is
we basically saying you did it, and now we're going to tell you how much it cost you. And
so you're like,
it.
So really, this bill is kind of like, Riley in that episode of the Boondocks was like, you got to pay what you owe.
Yeah, but also HR 40 is talking remedies too. I think everybody, HR 40 is not just saying, Kanye's had it as a study and all that. HR 40 has been radically changed.
Yes.
And it's going forth as a remedy committee.
Yes.
So I don't want people to think ours is all that strong and HR 40 is weak. No, that's a remedy, because we're talking remedies.
Yes.
And so when you have these places go, we're going to say, okay, let's see. Like, in 1865, right after the so-called liberation of us, 13th Amendment, they actually made Tunis Campbell ahead of the bureau, what's that bureau? Freedmen's Bureau, right? They made him ahead of the Freedmen's Bureau, and they actually gave Tunis Campbell, a black man, a preacher from Jersey, your town, I think, or Boston. They gave him St. Catherine's Island in the Sea Islands. So they gave him that. That was confiscated land. That was confiscated land from the Confederacy. So remember Sherman, the Special Order 15, General Sherman Special Order, Lincoln. So he took 500 Africans, went to St. Catherine's, set up a government, and they cultivated the land. They didn't think they were going to be able to do that. They built, the shacks. They turned them into schools. They got their own mules, because they never gave them the mules. They gave them some land, and they actually had it going for a while. They had a 200-300 militia army to protect it. They set up a government with a Senate and all of that stuff. And then after Lincoln died, then came Andrew Jackson, and he was Johnson, and he was more racist, because Lincoln was racist, but he was more racist. And he took the land back, and he took and gave it back to the Southern crackers. And Tunis Campbell then came back. He ran for office, and eventually they were trying to kill him, so he just went back home. So there are examples like Callie House, who fought for the ex-slave pension movement, and then Linda Sutton, who actually got it, little taste for her and her daughter. So we have some instances of it. And so some of the economists will look at the land that Tunis Campbell had and say, well, how much would that be worth today? And then say, that is a part of our reparations bill, $5 trillion, $6 trillion. So when we hear numbers like $6 trillion, that ain't no big thing. The United States has a $22 trillion national debt. Now, where did they spend that money? I didn't even know they borrowed that much. And who did they spend it on? And your taxpaying dollars goes to pay off some of that. So if we say it's $6 trillion, and then that's more than the whole national budget is only $5 trillion. So what? You just pay $1 trillion this year. We'll give you a payment plan, but you're going to pay for this. So we have to make it real, make it doable, and our people don't think that you can't get it. And this is just one tactic and strategy. There are a whole lot of other things we got to do to really make it happen.
Now, yes.
I just want.
Well,
first of all, thank you so very much, Assemblymember. I mean, I'm just saying you are historic and you are setting the pace with respect to this. I want to make sure that persons who are appointed to the commission remember the precedent that was set by the Japanese American Redress Bill, the $20,000 for each Japanese American detention camp survivor, the trust fund to be used to educate, the formal apology, but also the fourth provision, a pardon for all those who resisted detention camp internment. So when you talk about Matulu Shakur, your bill can call for a pardon. And for the folk who are looking at New Jersey, in terms of New Jersey reparations, I'm going to get, Asata. I mean, I'm just saying a pardon. There is precedent. This is a revolutionary Nkechi, a revolutionary Assemblyman Charles Barron said that this was the United States government that afforded a pardon to those who resist detention camp internment. We should expect no less. I just want
that's right. Now that's right on. That's right on.
Just to even bring it more up to date. Right.
That's
the situation with our move family.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, where the criminal police medical examiner stole the children's remains.
Right.
Passed it around the museums. Did that for decades.
Yes.
Right. And then when they said, and want to offer moving apology, we said we don't want an apology. How you can't put no money on that, but you can give us Mumia back.
Yeah.
See, you would give us Mumia back because that's the continuation of all this abuse put all of us through. So these dynamics, there's many levels to this, and we should be pulling on every level we possibly can to get everything we do.
Right. But here's something I think we got to look out for, and I see it happening across the country. You can't allow your oppressors to determine what the compensation is going to be.
Yes.
They're calling everything they're giving us now reparations. Yes. See, there's this part of the struggle. We're paying taxes to a system that's discriminating against us. So we got to fight for scholarships. We got to fight for health care. We got to fight for free health care. We got to fight. That is not reparations.
Right. That's right.
That's not reparations. That's what you're supposed to get as a tax-paying citizen right now. So
ordinary public
those things for Medicaid and free health care and for scholarships for schools, an anti-poverty program to deal with the poverty that colonial capitalism placed upon our economically oppressed communities, that's not reparations. Reparations is a debt owed separate from all of that. So don't come into New York saying, oh, y'all got the commission. That's why I want the community to have it and not the governor and the state, because they'll say, we have come up with, we're going to give $100 million toward education and economic development. No, you should do that now from the taxpaying dollars that we putting into this system, and you're not giving us back what we deserve. Separate is the fight to pay off the debt for reparations. So let's not get it confused.
That's
and
right.
To think that every time you hear we're getting something from some state government or a federal government, it's reparations.
Yes, he's absolutely correct. Reparations are distinct from ordinary public policy.
There you go.
It will happen anyway for everybody.
That's right.
This is something specific, something, and again, buttressed by international law.
That's right. That's right. You said it better than I said it.
Brother Charles,
you said it in 2 sentences.
Brother Charles, I had a question for you. So, is it the commission bill that you've got passed? The question is are we talking about every state having their own commission bill, or are we talking about a national commission bill?
Well, both. Every state has slavery. Every state has slavery. So every state should try to do a state bill, and we should all support the national movement. But now, see, we got our foot in the right direction now. We put pressure on the Senate for the rest of this year and the early next year. We could have this commission set up next year, or if we put enough pressure, the Senate might come around and call a special session to do it before this year is out. So every state has slavery. Every city has slavery. So I think we should deal with it on a local, state, and federal level, and not limit ourselves.
And that's an excellent
Local, state, and federal level, as well as companies and industries
That's
and
right.
academic institutions and religious institutions, newspaper publishers.
That's right.
The harms were so multifaceted, encompassing so many different entities and players. The remedies must be so as well. Everyone benefited from enslavement, either directly or indirectly. And I am really so glad that New York in the North has taken the initiative to show that, okay, and opening up its own casket and showing all of the things that he talked about, gradual emancipation, and the, if the fugitive slave law was there, they, they could still, send them back. I know my white colleague, Katrina Brown, said that her family was the largest slave trading family in U.S. history, and they were in New England. She said that the whole town lived off of enslavement. She talked about the boat makers who made the ships. She talked about the
Is this the same Brown as Brown University?
Brown, all of the above, yes, connected with all of the above. And everyone benefited. Okay, slavery could not have happened in the South without the complicity, not just the complicity, the actual hand in hand with what was going on, in the North.
See, let's
go a little further than that. Let's go a little further than that. Keisha, why don't you tell us about what happened in Evanston, Illinois?
Okay, so in Evanston, historic. I mean, I called it a sort of poetic justice, where the jurisdiction used tax revenue from the city's legal cannabis industry to fund reparation initiatives in Evanston. Now, Evanston, 70% of people blacks in Evanston who were arrested for marijuana offenses, despite the fact that they only constituted 17% of the jurisdiction. So now you have this very lucrative industry where people are making boatloads and boatloads of money. So this young older person, Robin Bruce Simmons, said, okay, we're going to do something, about this. And what they did was they earmarked $10 million over 10 years to look into their own jurisdiction's casket. And one of the things they found was severe issues with respect to redlining and housing and home ownership. That's just one thing. But you have to start somewhere. So they started there and they earmarked as their first step 4% of the $10 million, $25,000, to go towards grants to agreed parties in terms of home ownership and the like. Now it's come under a controversy, et cetera, et cetera. But they did go beyond ordinary public policy. They had a specific historic look into their own backyard, the Shorefront Legacy Foundation, it was called. And it systematically pulled up the connections to the enslavement era to what was happening with redlining. So they made that direct connection. And, I think other jurisdictions are looking at that as a possible revenue source as well.
Well, so let's take a step further. Let's head to the Wild Wild West. What happened in California?
Well, California, they just recently installed their reparations task force. They modeled it off of the federal bill, similar to what New York did in terms of some of the language, but specifically tied it to the specifics in California, just as Assemblymember Charles Barron specifically tied it to the situation in New York. And that task force has been installed and it's begun to do its work. Again, looking into their own backyard, California, and seeing what type of reparatory justice measures can be proposed and enacted.
So where am I going with this? And I'm gonna bring it back to Jersey now, right?
Well,
on Juneteenth, on June 19th, we have an annual march and rally for reparations, but it takes place against the background of a recent push made to have a reparations bill being pushed in New Jersey, S32A711, right? It didn't go as far as what Baba Charles did, but it's in the trajectory of what has been happening since the beginning of HR 40. So folks need to understand that just how long it took for HR 40 to move.
30 years.
We're talking
Over 30
decades.
years. Over 30 years.
Yeah,
I was there from the
40
beginning.
years for HR 40, huh?
Over 30,
Wow.
over 30 years.
That's right.
Wow.
So I mean, that kind, and we only been here for 400 some odd years.
I was complaining about 5 years.
But where am I going? I'm saying that not only is the time at hand for us to make this happen, but the legs of the reparations movement are beginning to develop underneath the reparations movement on the local basis. See, so this is not the time for anyone to think that we can't make this thing move. We should be making it move everywhere we are.
Because what you're saying, it seems, Zayid, and what it seems like all of our guests are saying is that going for reparations and making the case locally is important because people have to really understand those local roots to slavery, those local roots to injustice that are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. They're in our monuments. They're in our banking system. That means they're going to be. Is that a deliberate strategy across the country to go local and build to national, go local so that people can understand it and build from there?
Well, it should be, because the way you can find out about slavery locally, just look at the street
Dig the
signs.
history up.
Look at the street signs. Washington Avenue, Jefferson Avenue in Brooklyn, Skank Avenue in my beloved East New York was the largest slaveholding family in East New York. As a matter of fact, I have a burial ground in East New York, in my district in Brooklyn, and we stopped them from excavating because I had put millions, and my wife she's a city councilmember, state assembly member, put millions into renovating a park. And I read the history of that area and found out that the Dutch, they came first and they used Africans after they stole the land from the Lenape and the Canarsie and the Rockaway so-called Indians, indigenous people. They then stole us from Africa to cultivate it. We built Brooklyn, the foundation of it. The Dutch only was doing fair trading. They didn't know nothing about agriculture. They got that from the Africans. And then after we did that, they have an avenue in East New York called New Lots Avenue, because they started off on the west side of Brooklyn, and they called it Lots Avenue. And now they said, we need some new lots. So they named that New Lots, came there, and we cultivated the land, and they murdered us and buried us all together because we couldn't be integrated anywhere else. And I made them stop the excavation. We did a memorial service. Now we're going to have a $6 million park, and we're going to have half of it all about our African culture, the people who built that East New York. And we changed the name of the park from Skank Park to Sankofa Park. And that's official.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Now, Ed, you'll appreciate this. Remember, me and you too. We have a mutual friend in the great Bob Sumner, right?
Right.
Bob and I grew up together, right? Since we were 5 years old, right? Went to high school in Roselle, right? School is named after Abraham Clark. Bob just happened to stumble on something just last week that Mr. Clark, founding father and signer of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, was a slaveholder right there in Roselle, New Jersey, right? So, and I said to y'all at the top of this conversation that Barack Obama will have a say in this conversation. Bob now wants us to lead a campaign in Roselle, led by my graduating class, to have Abraham Clark's name taken off that school and to put Barack Obama's on. And I'm saying that should happen in the context of us implementing our Amistad Commission mandate, right? And showing other communities how to do the same thing. And Nkechi and Charles, for your benefit and for our listeners' benefit, New Jersey, quiet as it's kept, has a commission that was mandated by law to make sure that our ancestors' history was properly infused into all public school curriculum, not just in curriculum, not in schools where we get mostly Negroes, right? But all public schools, right? And if that had been meaningfully implemented or enforced, we would be changing the whole dynamic to how our kids would be relating to each other in this former slave state of the North that gave birth to racial profiling.
Well, I hope you can find a better name than Barack Obama.
Wow.
Because
I knew you was going to say that.
I can't help myself. I stay in trouble. You know, the only thing I say to our people, and then I'll leave you all alone after this, that we live in a colonial capitalist system. And what they do is they change administrators. They'll have a neo-colonial black puppet administrate the colonial capitalist system. And then they'll have a neo-fascist Donald Trump. And then they'll switch to a neoliberal / conservative racist Joe Biden, give you a black vice president, so you think you got something. And then, but the system of colonial capitalism stays the same. And you know how they trick us? When we focus solely on racism. See, racism is so obvious and so ugly, and you can see it. So when you kind of keep saying, this is racist, this America's racist, they never had a black president. They never had one. 43 presidents, all of them are white men. Here, take Barack Obama. Oh, America's racist. We ain't got no black people, CEOs on Wall Street. Okay, here's some black CEOs. America's racist. Look at the military. They don't have no chiefs and racism. When you just fight against racism, because racism is the ideology of colonial capitalism that perpetuates is in every system and is in the minds of millions of Americans. But the system is capitalism. There's no system called racism. It's capitalism or socialism or whatever. There is no system called racism, although it's systemic. It's an ideology.
And it's implementation. That's right.
It's an ideology. So when I fight, I say, yes, we got to fight against racism every time it rears its ugly head. But when you fight against racism, you're fighting for inclusion into a fatally flawed colonial capitalist system that use racism as an ideology. Look, even racists are against racists now.
So it sounds like what you're saying, and you know, like I'm a debate coach, and a lot of times you have
coach, bring it, man.
Arguments.
He's a legendary debate coach too, by the way.
No. I'm just saying I hear a lot of students they're giving arguments, and they're saying representation is important, right? So you have a lot of different black kids around the country saying that representation is important, and just their presence, like their blackness inside of a debate round, inside of an inclusion in the debate community is something good. But what I hear you saying is that if you're arguing on the point of blackness as representation or blackness as inclusion, that's also a setup to be neo-colonialist.
Right. But I ask you, are you proud of Clarence Thomas? There's nobody that has more African features than Clarence Thomas. He is probably the most non-black person you ever want to meet. So we have him as a Supreme Court justice. So those debate that want to have inclusion, they should have inclusion for revolution, because they have to be fighting against a system, so that if we get reparations, I ain't saying this should happen. Let's say all of us get $1 million check, and I know we're not talking about just a check. We're talking about land, education, healthcare, and all of that. Right. But if we just get that and we don't change this system, that's what I love.
Saving the system and then losing our money.
Yeah, it'll be so. I think that this generation, we have to talk revolution, and not in a empty rhetoric, romantic kind of way that people think that, hey, this is not possible. But if we don't talk about systemic change, and it can start from the bottom up. You know what I want to do in my beloved East New York? I got parks renovated for them. We got 3 new schools built from the bottom up. I was able to get them 5 parks renovated for $40 million. All of that stuff, got them 2,000 jobs. I stopped gentrification. We did Operation Power, our movement. We stopped gentrification. East New York has more black people now. Harlem is gentrified. Bed-Stuy is gentrified. Crown Heights is gentrified. All the communities around me are gentrified, but because East New York had 2 black revolutionaries in the city council and the state assembly seat, Inez Barron, my queen,
That's
and
right. Your
myself,
beloved queen. That's
we
right.
said no. So this is the power. When a developer comes to East New York and the city wants to give them city-owned land, I can't stop that. But guess what? They have to get the approval of the local city council member in order to build anything on that property.
Wow.
So that's power.
That's
See,
right.
when you fight for power, I'm not
And I
fighting
know you feeling
for
that.
black people, white people to understand me. I ain't trying to get you to understand me, like me, be my friend, and nothing else. Racism, the great equalizer against racism is power. If you have power over the destiny, that's what the Black Panthers' first edict was. We want power to determine the destiny of our black communities.
Right.
We said in the Black Panther Party, and I still say today, we want the power to control all of the social, cultural institutions that govern our lives. We want power over the land. We want power over the means of production. So everywhere we have 70, 80% of us in a black community, we should control the destiny. If you don't do that, and you have black puppets in high places that perpetuate the same racist policies and conditions, they will do better. But the masses of our people, you know how you measure our progress? By how the masses are doing. I hate when I go to these schools and they have, career day. Negroes come in there. Well, I used to live in the projects, and I worked hard, and I believe in. You got to believe in yourself, children. And now look at me. I'm a billionaire, and I'm gonna give you $40 million to pay for your tuition, said the billionaire to the college students. But he didn't tell them I became a billionaire by being an exploitative capitalist. Tell them how do you get $1 billion in America? Billions without exploiting people, exploiting workers. So he gave them 40 billion. Now, if I got out there and I talked against that brother, what's that brother's name?
I can't call his name now, but I know
Brown. I think his name was Brown. He gave him 40 million to pay their tuition. How could I come out and say he's a capitalist?
Right.
They'll kick me out of the auditorium. Don't talk about Barack Obama. We had Barack Obama in there for 8 years, right? And we had Ferguson, Brown, we had Florida, Martin, all of that. For 8 years, we had a black president and a black Eric Holder, U.S. Attorney General. For 8 years, not one cop was indicted on the federal level. Not one. They investigated. The best that they did around police brutality is when their bourgeois Negro friend Skip Gates got disrespected. He said him and the cop went to Barack's White House and had some beer. But come on, and look, how do you have in 2008, Democrats controlled the House, the Democrats controlled the Senate, and we had a black president, and John Conyers was chair, may he rest in peace,
and
of the Judiciary Committee where his reparation bill was.
Right.
And
bill never came up.
And Nkechi, I would have
now the Dems control the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. We have more co-sponsors than we've ever had. It was voted out of HR 40 was voted out of House Judiciary Committee. We're waiting a floor vote, but I can count. I know how many votes is needed in the Senate. I know the situation with the filibuster. So what the plan is for the signing of an executive order. So we come out of 2020 with the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and the list goes on and on and on. We have a groundswell of support with respect to reparations. There needs to be pressure on Biden
That's right.
Okay, who's a replica of Barack Obama, who we just said about pressure on him to do this. We will never see this confluence of, I don't want to call it power, but confluence of situation again with the House, Senate, and the White House, and so that is really what the task is on the federal, on the national level right now. I just want to say one other thing, because Assemblymember was talking about power, and he was absolutely right. I want to make sure that folks know that the genesis of the modern era reparations movement was Black nationalists, Queen Mother and Maria.
Right. That's our mother.
Reparations, I mean, you know, the list goes. My book come here for well, and Chicago, right. The list goes on. These were our people, Black nationalists, Pan-Africanists.
That's right.
Okay, demanding reparations, and you know, the ancestors now. Okay, we want to make sure that their spirits are lifted up, and that dream, that vision comes through to reality. And Charles Barron, thank you for helping to move that vision.
That's right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
And Nkechi, that next point, though, another point of action that we got to talk about is that, and I put it up. I don't know if Mike must not be here because he hasn't put them up yet. But the annual reparations convention is also coming up, 25th of June through the 27th. You know, and we're talking about the kind of things that needs to be coming out of that convention in terms of what our next moves are locally. In addition to our march on the 19th, next year is the 50th anniversary of Gary, right? We'll do that here in Newark, Charles, right? And, and the stuff that Charles is talking about has to be a part of what we're going to do in the commemoration, because that's the piece that was missed back 50 years ago.
That's right.
We didn't deal with the class question.
That's right.
And we had to go through a generation or two of house Negroes, you know, holding everything up and getting in the damn way before we started figuring this stuff out.
That's right.
You know, there it is.
This is the greatest time to be alive, sister. You said it well. There is no better time than now. You know why? They are losing. Yes. Their job is to convince you of their invincibility.
That's right.
With their military might, with their economic dollars, they have to convince you of their invincibility. I told the blacks and the other members of the assembly, look how they define power. They said there's three people who sit in the room to discuss the budget: the governor, the head of the assembly, and the head of the Senate. They call that power. I said, how is that power? Is 150 of us, 63 senators, the governor does not have a vote on the budget, the speaker has one vote, and the head of the Senate has one. How is 2 votes on the budget power? If we say no, those 3 are irrelevant. What makes them powerful is when they can come to these legislatures and say, what you need for your community? You need a park? How much money you need for your campaign so I can get you reelected? What's the next seat you want? You know, how can we raise money for you in your campaign? How can we get you some signatures to make sure you get on the ballot? And what position do you want in the state assembly? You want to chair a committee? You got it. Or you want to be a deputy speaker? They make up all these meaningless positions so that they control the power. But we have the power. The reason why our reparations bill went through, because the power was growing. I was getting more and more, just like you're doing in Washington. You're getting more and more people. The president is going to have to give in something, because you're getting too many. We've got over 100 some odd people signing on to HR 40. Yeah. So with that kind of movement,
almost 200.
Look at that. You got almost 200
there. Yeah.
That was unheard of.
Yeah,
that was unheard of before. So with that kind of move, and it's not us, it's the movement in the streets that's making them do this. If I were to ask you, who were the sponsors of the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Bill in 64 and 65, you probably wouldn't know. I know I don't know. Well, when you think of those bills, you think of the Black Power movement and the Civil Rights movement.
Yeah.
Because that's what made that happen. The sponsors were irrelevant.
That's right.
Right.
It's the movement. So when they see this stuff going down now, they say, wait a minute, they burning down police precincts. Wait a minute, they not just messing up the stores in the hood. They went into some of our stores. This is getting out of control. This is they're so afraid. We didn't even ask the governor to make Juneteenth a holiday. He offered it.
Wow.
We said, whoa, we ain't asked you for no Juneteenth holiday. We want reparations. He offered Juneteenth. Nancy Pelosi, remember when Colin Kaepernick got on his knee and that was the
worst. Did it on my birthday. It was a birthday.
Everybody gets on their knee. Nancy Pelosi got on her knee with kente cloth on. Come on now. You know, if they get on their knees with kente cloth, then we need to get up and do something else. They're co-opting it. Even in New York, Bill de Blasio said, yes, we're going to defund the police. We're going to transfer money. So they're gonna co-opt defund reparations. That's what I agree with it. We just need to see how we can work it out. They're going to try to co-opt the movement.
But this is a question that I have for both of you. Like we know that the movement's going to be co-opted. Reparations is going to be co-opted, right? Like, but how do you prevent that? How do you prevent we gave everyone a Happy Meal, right? Like,
it's not supposed to be what they give us. It's supposed to be what the injured parties, what the victims demand. It's not reparations if they say, okay, we did this to you, so we're going to give you this. No, it's for us to say, we want a pardon for our political prisoners and prisoners of war. We want A, we want B, we want repatriation resources. We want land. We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing. That's right.
You know
what I'm saying? So it's for us to determine what the remedy is. And I think that's the difference in the distinction.
See, and then we got to let them know also, no matter what you give us, this system got to radically change.
That's right.
But you ain't paying your way out of that.
But Brother Charles, I got a question for you now, and sister. I think one of the things that we've seen, though, is that America that promotes invincibility, I think what COVID-19 showed us is that she's not invincible, right? I think that was a
Vietnam showed us too.
Pandemic, right? That rocked and still rocking this country, right? And I think that showed us that they're not invincible. That's why they're trying to find out. What I'm hearing from some of the brothers and sisters in the conscious community is that China actually played a game on America by releasing a chemical germ and just trying it, right? Just to show that America was not invincible, when in fact she's done more harm over the 400-year period to Black folk who have never done nothing to her, but other people are looking at the injustices that have been done to us and are saying, oh, hell no, you ain't going to do to us what you've done to them. So they're getting ahead of the game. But America is not invincible. She thinks she is.
She thinks she's not. That's right. Brother, you have an excellent point there. Have you ever heard of the stuck neck virus?
No.
The stuck neck virus was a virus put together by Barack Obama and Israel to go into the centrifuges of Iran, because they said they were in Iranian enhancement facilities. So they put this virus in there that sped up the centrifuges, and all of a sudden it just blew up. So some of the scientists,
the computer virus.
Yes, right. Because I tell you why they're scared now. Cyber warfare.
Oh yeah,
cyber warfare.
Yeah, you see that being played on them too.
Right now, with the stuck neck virus, they did that, and then Iran regenerated it. Iran re-engineered it, and they have the stuck neck virus too. So that's a virus that is not detectable, because when the scientists were in their facility, they just heard it roaring and turning and heard an explosion. But when they looked at the computer, the the centrifuges didn't look like anything was happening to them because the stuck-neck virus is not detectable. And so what they do is then Iran said, okay, they hit America's banking system in 2008 or 9. The banking system almost crashed. They had a hearing in Washington, and they mentioned it. It was the stuck-neck virus. Do you know with all of this computer-generated stuff, what they can do to your power plants? Everything will be shut down. A country can shut down. So they are afraid. Was unlike the nuclear weapons, you know, you have some treaties and even chemical warfare treaties. There is no cyber warfare treaty. So right now, the opposition is getting as sophisticated as America. And then there's a lot of liberation movements happening all over the place. So capitalism, because it's spreading itself so thin, is in trouble. They're in big trouble. And like you said, brother, the virus really almost knocked them out the box. So this is a right time. In the 60s, we said black power. We did the black, but we didn't get the power.
Yeah, and Brother Charles, you're right, because now we see from a cyber perspective, you see all these companies that are being held up for ransom, right? They just did something to the meat, right? Where they went and they don't want to say how much money they had to pay in Bitcoins.
Yes.
And so they blaming it on Russia and so forth. We don't know if we can believe these people, but what we're seeing is how vulnerable America really is.
You know, they say in African proverb, the best way to eat a big elephant is one bite at a time. Don't try to swallow the whole thing. You know, could you eat an elephant? Sure you can. One bite at a time. Can you walk 1,000 miles? Sure, one step at a time. Is life hard? Yes, if you take it by the yard, but it's a cinch if you take it inch by inch. See, they know that we're winning. We don't know that. We are winning. This is why they gotta go into neo-colonialism. You remember Kwame Nkrumah's book, Neo-Colonialism, the last stage of imperialism?
Yes.
This is the last stage.
Yes.
When they gotta put black faces up there, it's the last stage. Because now they want you focusing on racism, so they put the black faces up. The first thing they said when Obama was elected, post-racial America, we're not racist anymore. Look, we gave you a black president. There goes the racism. And now we're saying systemic change. You know what systemic change is to them? Changing the policies in the police department. That ain't no systemic change. I don't care how much you change the police department. If it's under American capitalism, it's going to serve the same purpose. The NYPD came into existence in 1845 as slave catchers.
Right.
Because they just abolished slavery in 1827. Then, as my sister said, they had the Fugitive Slave Act. And so they came into existence to round up and catch enslaved Africans. And they're still doing that. Because we went from the plantation to the penitentiary. Because the 13th Amendment says slavery shall be abolished except as a punishment for crime. And that's how they built the prison industrial complex. Marty Markowitz, who was the borough president of Brooklyn, he used to have these big concerts, bringing all the famous stars. Black people loved him. I call them plantation concerts. And he would have thousands of them there. You know who set up the chairs? The brothers incarcerated. He used prison labor to set up his chairs for the concert that held for thousands of people.
Wow.
Because that's where the profit is being made. You know that first act, that First Step Act, federal.
Right, the one that Trump.
Yeah, that they're celebrating. You know, Hakeem Jeffries and Bill what's his name? Van Jones on TV crying, "Oh, we never had something so great." First of all, that's federal prisoners. That ain't the 2 million that's in state prisons. The federal prisoners are much smaller. Secondly, if you read that bill, it gave more power to the prison industrial complex and more products. But they said they'll have early release, so maybe 3,000-4,000 people will be released because Clinton put them in the first place with his 3 strikes and you're in for life. So they start releasing early release, and they think that was great.
But they haven't even been releasing folk. I mean, that hasn't even been happening.
Look at that.
Wow. So when you're talking about this neocolonialism stuff, and you're talking about like this last stage, you see it even more in this moment right now, or is that the pushback that you're talking about?
No, this is a great sign of it. This is why we have Operation Power in East New York. We want Black radical revolutionaries as a tactic to run for city council seats and state legislative seats. Look what my wife and I was able to accomplish, just two of us. We're the only two Black radicals in electoral office in New York State. And look what we've done to a community. We brought in all kinds of stuff. And at the same time, raising their consciousness. When I help somebody get a job, or we help 100 families get out of foreclosure, while I'm helping them, I said, you know, we're going to get this job, but we got to make revolution in America. This system is terrible. Well, I know, Brother Charles, it's the system, y'all. Don't be afraid of Black power. Don't be afraid of Black nationalism. Don't be afraid of us calling ourselves Africans, and don't be afraid of revolution. Because while you got this taken care of, this system is ready to put you in some harm some other way. So we got to use this time in the electoral arena. One of the things we couldn't deliver on a lot in the 60s is the material benefits for our people. Amilcar Cabral said it best. He said, bear in mind, the revolutionary from Guinea-Bissau, bear in mind, our people are not fighting for ideas in your head. They're fighting for material benefits and a future for their children. Tell no lies, claim no easy victories, right? So that's what we got to do. The revolutionary movement can't just have people's tribunals. I go to all of them. You can't just do that, and we can't just have rallies and conferences and write books. Our people want to know, Charles, you want to give me a job? You know, when I go to that, walk them streets, hey, Charles, you know, I got too much crime in the neighborhood. What you gonna do with all these guns? What you gonna do with the landlord is on my nerves? So now I can say, I got you 2,000 jobs. I saved 100 of your homes. Now you gonna come with me for revolution? I put food on your table. Now let's talk revolution. Because we gotta plant the seed in the minds of our people. I think Steve Biko said it best. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. They got our people's minds, and we got to get it back.
Break their chains. Got to break those chains.
And really, what you're talking about is the politics of assimilation versus the politics of trying to do something radically different. I want to bring it back to reparations and this conversation. And Nkechi, what is when we're dealing with the reparations conversation? Is that what? Is just that conversation alone, like, is part of that conversation just to get us to think differently?
Well, just to mouth the word reparations, which was back in the 70s when I was a teenager, was a huge thing in and of itself. It began to change the narrative. Just to mouth the word. Nobody even wanted to say the word. As we were saying, this was the Black Power movement, the Black nationalists that was saying the word, that was, putting it out there. And now we're at a stage where it's becoming mainstream.
That's right. We're
looking at more concrete ways of who's going to get it, where is it going to come from, what is it going to tell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's helping to elevate the conversation. It's elevating the struggle. It's making it more concrete. It is building upon the seeds that were planted back then in the 60s and 70s. That was planted before them with Queen Mother Moore, and before them with the Nation of Islam, before them with Marcus Garvey, before them with Callie House, and before them with Henrietta Woods, and before them with I mean, I'm just saying it's been long time. And we're just building upon all of that tradition. And it's my hope that this is when we will see it finally through to fruition.
But Sister Nkechi, it's people like you that we need in the front of it, because we can't have sellouts getting in front of the reparations movement. I remember in the 60s, Nixon started talking about Black Power.
Black Power, yes, he did.
Some
of us old enough to remember that.
But when you have the Nkechis in there and you have all of us here, we got to stay in front of this thing so that they don't co-opt it. And you've been a blessing to our movement. And your book, ooh, what a book.
Y'all can't see, that's that book in the background over her shoulder.
That's right. So, I mean, but see, like a book like yours, one of the things, you know, I teach leadership training and I have like 7 principles. The last principle number 7, you know, first have a clear vision, believe in your vision, have a strategic plan, have the skills to make the plan happen, go into action, celebrate your accomplishments. But the last one, eternalize your ideas. They have to outlive you. So what you left for us, that book is going to be around for generations. So the people that benefit from your book now will begin, but when you're long gone and I'm gone, that book is going to help make revolution. Remember the film, The Battle of Algiers?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I remember
Right?
back in the day.
I remember like Ali Lapont, the brother, was on the top of the Casbah with one of the leaders, and they were trying to get him out of there because the French were breaking up the cell organization and they didn't want to get their leader. So the leader said to the young revolutionary Ali Lapont, because he wanted to get down. So he said, do you know what revolution is? To Ali Lapont, and he said, no, my teacher, please tell me. He said, revolution 1, you gotta light the fire, you gotta light the spark, and you need the masses. So you get the spark lit. Number 2, you gotta maintain the flame after you get it lit. You gotta maintain that flame for generations. And then he said, 3, you gotta win. This is not just about lighting fires and keeping sparks going. You gotta win. And number 4, the most important part of a revolution is you got to build a new society after you win.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
the revolution. So when I say revolution, the process is the spark, to maintain the flames, let's win. But the revolution is the new society.
The new society. Yes. Which reparations can help to bring
Can
it
help make it happen. Go ahead, Steph. You know how to tie it in.
And is there a thought that like reparations can't exist in the current world when reparations actually happen, when people have fought to the point where reparations happen, society would have been transformed? Is that like a thing, like under a capitalist white supremacist society, reparations impossible? You have to change the society for reparations to occur?
No, we can get it now, and they don't have to know we're getting it for revolution, but you know, we can get it now and say, you owe us this, you did us wrong. There are a lot of people rising up, going to tear this place up. You better give us a little something, or none of you will have anything, and we'll all die trying to make sure of that. So I think we get it now. And then as we get it, then we try to guide the movement to say, hey, it's not just about you getting a check.
Right.
You know, it's about raising your consciousness for radical systemic change. And it's about the masses. It has to benefit the masses. So it's a delicate thing, because like in East New York, I've gotten so many people, so many jobs. I don't want them to think the system works because I got them jobs. So I got to say, yeah, I got you the job, but the system, but look, most of us don't have it. So I have to tell them, look, I got you 2,700 jobs, but I didn't put a dent in the unemployment, statistic. We still got 14% unemployment. So even though I got you 2,000 jobs, that didn't budge, and that's not going to budge until we radically change.
It's like that old movie, which was like when someone's like, "Well, what happened to the revolution?" It was like we went down to the government office, to protest. We came in with guns, but they were hiring that day. He came in with guns, and we came out with jobs.
Yeah. You know what really stopped the revolution in America? The New Deal with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Communism and socialism, it was happening. They were scared. And the Great Depression. So Roosevelt went to his rich friends and said, look, y'all, we're going to lose it all. You better give me some unemployment benefits to give them. You better give me some work programs to give them. you better give me some Social Security for
That's
them.
where it came from.
So I'm going to offer all of these things as a new deal, and then we'll let McCarthy crush communism and socialism, and we'll maintain ourselves. Now, that New Deal wasn't no real deal for us because the white families were coming back from the war, and we didn't really benefit. They put a black cabinet together and all of that. But they said capitalism is dying. You know why they're in trouble? Listen to Warren Buffett. Listen to Bill Gates. You know what they're saying now? We got to do something about the wealth gap. We got to do something about poverty. I've listened to 5 presentations from them too. They are highlighting poverty. Warren Buffett said it's a shame that my secretary pays more taxes than me. Y'all need to tax us. We need to give up some of that wealth. What he's saying, hey, y'all, you better give up something or we're going to lose it all. Right. Because if you keep this poverty too high, see, there's a certain level of poverty that's dangerous to capitalism. So they manage poverty. They say, if we can keep it at this level, let some through and say that the rest of you just got to work hard like them and you'll get it too. Then we can stay around for a while. But when you got people with PhDs and master's degrees and can't find gigs, I remember Fanny Shakur told me, you got to talk to Tupac. I went to visit Tupac. He said, come on, Charles, why don't you tell him that he needs to get an education so he get a diploma to back himself up? I went in there and said, Tupac, your mama really wants to get educated. He said, I don't need a diploma. I need a passport so I can get around and make my money. He said, so we need to go it's hard to tell our children, get an education, but there's a whole lot of people with education who don't have gigs.
Right. Or they go into debt, $100,000,
yes.
$150,000.
And hey, everybody, but it's also, I just wanted to say, but also it's hard to tell them when those without education have more money than those with education too.
Hello.
Right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's what Tupac was saying.
Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure I respect our guest time. We are about 20 minutes over. The second part of our show has not started yet. But we want to give you a chance, like if you want to go or need to go, to answer our question and do that if you want. You're welcome to stay for this conversation as well.
The Assemblyman, they was just holding you because I needed a summer job.
Come on down. Are you a revolutionary?
Good question.
Or you a job and join Operation Power and help me make the revolution?
I would have loved that to be an
help me make the revolution before I keep telling Charles, I know you're not playing. Yeah, but I gotta go. But I'm telling you, this was wonderful. I always love coming on with you, my sister, because you're such an inspiration. Your energy, your knowledge, your commitment, your love for our people, and your clarity of vision. You know what's happening. So it's always an honor to come on with you and all of my brothers and my sisters. Thank you so much. And just remember this: our struggle may be long, but our victory is certain.
Yes, sir.
So let our people know we are winning. We will win. We're not losing. And people, you can't focus. The worst thing we can do. That's why sometimes I don't like to go to rallies and stuff. I don't need you to tell me how bad the white man is doing me. Pookie in my neighborhood can tell me that. I don't need you to just see. We major in the problem, major in the oppression. I don't want to see any more films like 12 Years a Slave, Amistad. Look at the Amistad. We had hundreds.
The opening scene was good, though.
Huh?
Who? You said the opening scene
Amistad was good.
Now, let me tell you what's bad about Amistad. And why you should look at the other 50 mutinies they won't tell you about. You know why? Because those 50 mutinies, they killed all of the crew, the white crew, turned the ship back to Africa and never was captured. The Amistad, they take over the ship and they don't know that, they go
left
to one island.
Yeah,
They go to Long Island, and who saves them? The Great White Hope, John Quincy Adams.
I'm just talking about the opening scene though was good because it
opening
was
scene was cool, but the end, the white man saved them. And if you like a film, then let's do Django Unchained.
that was a good one.
Look, my wife, the reporters wanted to get me in trouble. They said, Paul, what do you think about Django? They thought I was going to say, yeah, they killed the white folk right off. I said, oh, Django, what a love story. What a love story. He loved his wife so much that he was willing to do anything to free his wife from slavery. And it was wonderful because they went off into the sunset at the end. What a beautiful love story.
Was your face like that when you said it?
Oh, yes, I had everything. I had everything worked. But I love y'all. We're good.
Well, we always ask the question about music because this is All Politics of Local America's number one hip hop radio talk show. So we always want to see what are you rocking, you've been on the show.
Ask Nkechi first. This is your first time.
Yes, Nkechi first.
I didn't hear the question. What's the question?
Who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group?
Oh no, look, I gotta go back to the origins, okay? I gotta go back to the Last Poets and Gil Scott Heron.
All right now.
Because that was the origins of it. I'm sorry. I was just on a Clubhouse last night with Gil Scott Heron's daughter, and it just brought back all this nostalgia.
Wow.
Would not be televised. Whitey on the Moon and all like that. I'm sorry. That was the genesis, and I'm gonna end it with that.
And I'm there with her, but I'll add on Matulu and Dead Prez.
Yes, Dead Prez.
Dead Prez, and I know them brothers well. They bring it, and of course, my love, Tupac Shakur. That's my man. He had some
Next week is Tupac's 50th.
But Tupac and Matulu and Dead Prez, those are my
Assemblymember, we'll be calling you because we would love to do something with Dead Prez because Dead Prez.
They hot. Did you see that thing, Overstand? Did you ever hear that thing, Overstand and Politrix? Check out those people.
I'm gonna put them up tonight.
Overstand and Politrix.
Okay, all right. That's our homework this week. And then Nkechi, nice to see you. I'm sorry I didn't get to spend the hour, so that means you got to come back and spend the hour with just me.
And I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to really be looking forward to beefing up what's going on in New York with respect to the reparations. It gives me another great talking point. So thank you for being hard hitting and
Jersey coming too now.
That becoming reality. Say that again, brothers.
Jersey coming too now. Yeah.
Peace and blessings, all.
Thank you so much. And it's great having you on the show. And we'll be wanting you on here for a long time. We'll have you back soon.
Yeah, that's Dad, sister, Dad, boy.
That's right.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
Take care, y'all.
Wait, I'm laughing how Bobby was like, Jersey coming too, and Assemblymember was like, he had that same Django answer.
Let me get out of here before I get in trouble. How I get off? I didn't even hear that.
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear that. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm telling you.
All right, thank you for coming on, and we definitely got to get you back on soon.
Hey, Reverend. You see, he was like, yeah, he had that. Listen, he had that. Yeah. Hey,
I've been trying to get over to Charles for the longest.
How y'all doing this evening, boy? I enjoyed that segment.
I know you did, brother.
My neighbor Charles Barron, and I enjoyed my reparations. That was a strong.
His sound is low.
Powerful session.
Yeah, so we can't really hear you.
You sound a little bit, Conrad.
You do sound very low on there. So if we can get you hired to your mic or whatever, that would be good.
Okay. All right. Let me work on that. All right. I think I see myself twice. I don't know why. But can you hear me better now?
It's about the same.
Yeah, it's about the same. You're still probably a little bit low. But as you work on it, we will just bring you into that conversation. So let us know. So Donna, what's going on with you?
It's Friday. That was a inspiring way to come in. You know, I just was I think I gave you when we was coming back from Philly, Zayid, something I had heard from the first time by Gil Scott-Heron. I know I gave you the one with and that they were like songs that were about the police, but I had just heard them for the first time. And remember, we said anybody that had written, you can go to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. If it was a song about the police, it's still the same situation. I got to remember. Remember, we was talking about that when we was coming back from Philly?
Heck no, I don't remember.
No, okay. All right. Yeah, but I had just heard a song that Gil Scott-Heron just did about the police. I'm going to find it. So that was a very inspiring note to join y'all on, albeit the end. It sounds like the conversation was fire. So I just always, to be in the president of Assemblymen is just, it's always like a pen and pad, get your, you know, and just take notes and everything. So this seemed like the last segment was a note-taking moment. That's what it is.
Yeah. You should see his lecture. He's an excellent lecturer.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Inez both. His wife get down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to on my second as a when I got sworn in the second time, he came in and spoke at the inauguration. He's at 2012. Yeah, he was a guest of Mayor Warren. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Reverend Tillard, let us hear you. Let's get that sound check, yeah. Reverend Tillard. Speak.
Okay, what about now? Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Can you hear me better
no,
now?
No, say a hip, a hop, a hip, a hip. Say that. I can hear him good, guys. Can you hear him?
Okay, I can hear me better now?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I was saying I enjoyed that.
So do we have a format? Because I got about 20 questions for Reverend Tillard. So y'all write a format because I'm ready.
Sure.
This New York race. But if you got a format, John, go ahead. Because
no. Go for it, Donna. Donna, this is do you.
Reverend Tillard, well, I know you've told us before that you know that you like in the mayoral race, you told us who you like, but this race, it seems, what appears from my vantage point, it seems like any man's race at this point in New York in terms of the mayor race, and even some of the down ballot, you know, the comptroller, the different races. Today, I know Sister Maya, they said she's coming in. Can you tell us what are they? Who are they saying is in first, second, or third? And then I wanted to also ask you, can you please simplify us this whole thing about this new voting, the rating system you had? What is the importance of that, and how do you feel about that? And we can start there right now. But I know I just heard an interview. Go ahead, let me get those, and I'll come up with a follow.
Well, the first thing is, as I understand it, the latest polling data I've seen, Eric Adams is the front runner. You saw the debate the other night. Everyone attacked him. And that's usually a very clear indication that the polling data is telling them that that's the man to beat. Now, Maya Wiley, with the endorsement of OC and others, has jumped up, as far as I am informed, into second place. So, but I think you're right.
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you. Who was endorsed by AOC?
Maya Wiley. Maya, yeah. So she's apparently second, but it you're right. It's any man, any woman's race right now. You know, they had a similar.
You're coming out again, Reverend Tillard. I think we just lost you.
And don't we always lose Reverend Tillard? Like, as soon as he's about to say something, it's like he's selling a book. You're like,
I was looking forward to it because it was just like, and now I'm gonna give you the real thing about this race in New York.
You see his lips moving and you don't hear nothing.
All right, so I think it's a conspiracy.
Yeah, all the time with Reverend Tillard. Did he drop off? It's like all the time. Yeah.
Well, I got a question for you, Donna. While we wait for Reverend Tillard to get back, we had our elections last Tuesday, and Donna and I were talking about like the ballots in Essex County, right? Like, and is this? I don't know if it's all of New Jersey. I don't know if it's just Essex County, but
I don't know if it's Essex County.
But I'm just questioning when did we give up secret ballots? Because I must have missed it. Because our ballots aren't secret ballots. I mean, these ballots aren't secret ballots, especially when you have a line system. Like, they big, right? You have to come out with them.
And 50, and they in like 50-inch font, so you can see it from like down the street.
Right, and everyone can see who you voted for, right? Because you got to hand your ballot to somebody for them to put it in a machine, right? Like, or if it does, like you got people all around looking at your ballot. And when you got a line system, if you vote off that line, everybody knows it. So I'm like, it's like, oh, I mean, you can see it from across this. You could be across the room.
Because you got to fill it out in the Sharpie. And so, of course, you can see it because it's in the Sharpie. Ed, was it the same ballot? Did you have a different ballot than we did?
No.
You got the same one we got?
Yeah.
Oh, you got the old system. You got
the public ballot? That public ballot. I'm going to call it the public ballot from now on. That's a public ballot.
Yeah, how about that?
It's a public ballot.
Wait, pose that thought. Reverend Tillage, you're back.
I'm sorry, I don't know where I got cut off, but I just wanted to say that, Eric, we need leadership right now. I was so happy to hear Charles Barron say that in Brownsville, where he lives and works, people are concerned about crime, violence. These are things that are affecting the quality of life of Black people, brown people in our boroughs. We hear about incidents in Manhattan, and that's largely, and it grieves my heart to hear every time one of our mentally ill brothers and sisters injures someone, it's being presented and rejected as a hate crime. Black politicians need to stand up and stop allowing Black people who are mentally ill to be listed and depicted as people engaging in hate crime, as though the crimes that they're committing, which are deplorable, which are terrible, we've got to stop, but they're not hate crimes. We have a plethora of people walking the streets of New York City with no homes, no medical treatment, and so we've got a lot going on. We someone like Eric who will be able to say, hey, this is not just about policing, but it's also about differentiating between what it means to answer a call at someone's house when there's a mentally ill individual. We need someone that understands law enforcement, someone fair. Eric Adams has stood with the Black community for over 30 years. I mean, there's not one Black leader in New York, one Black incident that he has not stood with the Black community in those instances, even when he had to go to work the next morning on the police force.
Now, I'm sorry, you're also going to say something else about the New York's race, right? Like,
yeah.
When is it? When will it actually heat up? Like, is it hot now?
Oh, the race itself?
Yeah, like, are people paying attention to
early voting starts this weekend. I mean, this is a short runner season. So, we have ranked choice voting now. What's interesting about that? Ranked choice voting is supposed to prevent what usually turned out to be expensive runoffs. If you didn't get that 50+1, then you would have to have runoffs in many of these races. And so what ranked choice voting does, in fact, when I ran for city council in 2013, I would have loved to have ranked choice voting, because I could have said to many people, hey, if you can't give me your first vote, give me your second vote. So it's an opportunity for example, in my district, in the city council district of the 36th district in Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights, Robert Waterman is my choice, but I like some of the other candidates. So I'll be able to vote for him as my number one, and then I'll vote for some of the others as my 2, my 3, 4, 5.
How does that work?
I like Ray.
You're not coming in well. There's still some issues with your sound, but I am curious. How does it work in the election? I know that you vote for your top 3 candidates, right? Like the first, second, and third. How is that calculated?
Like top five. In other words, I think it's the top five. You fill in the top five candidates, and what it does is, again, it prevents the city from having to have costly runoffs. And as I said, for example, in the mayor's race, Eric Adams is my number one. But I like Maya. I like Ray McGuire. They very well. One of them, my number two, my number three, and so forth and so on. So there's a lot to this. Like I said, when I ran for office, I would have loved to say to people, if you can't make it a number one, at least make me your number two. So
yeah, that's good. I like the way you explained that. Yes.
Yeah.
And how that would work.
And the thing is, John, is they got to keep going until someone gets above that 50% mark.
Yeah.
Right. They got to keep going.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it would look like if I got like 100 ones, but everybody else, like, I'm not in the top few candidates, right? So people who voted for me, right, they don't just lose their vote, because they got a number two who might still be in it. Does that mean that if once you're out, like, you're not? I'm sorry?
Absolutely. So in other words, your number one may not win, but you're also saying who your second choice would be. And so you make your second choice may end up winning, because once the votes are tabulated, it would be as though they're having a runoff, but they would not have to spend the money, or the voters would not have to wait. Campaigns would not have to campaign longer. They will count the votes. If no one has 50 plus 1, then they will go in descending order, looking at who's second, how close are the second, third candidates, and they'll tabulate it that way and be able to come up with a winner.
So they'll look at everybody's number one. So it'll be round one, all on the same night. All your number ones voting. No one has over 50%. All right. So but their top two candidates, right? Well, there'll be a candidate that have. How do you determine when it start? Like, how do you determine when the twos start? Right? Like, and who gets it?
They're saying that we won't know unless, of course, someone gets 51%. That we won't know that night.
That's right.
But the votes will be there, and the step that will fit is for the Board of Elections and the campaigns to, continue the campaign, to continue to spend money to ratchet up a special runoff election. So you have you have enough votes just to be counted. And the question is, what round will a winner be determined?
And you know what, John, what it also says to me, it motivates people to come out. And now it's more important for you to vote, because if you know that thought process, oh, Eric has enough votes, I don't have to get out there. But because they have this ranked choice voting, that if you don't get out there and cast your vote, that number two may come up there. So you have to get out there. Absolutely. If you want your number one to be number one, you got to get out there and make sure that they are number one. Yeah, that's all. Is there a state that we can look to who already uses this form of the system already?
I'm not familiar with it. I'm sure there are states that have done it, but I'm not familiar with it. So this is all very new to us. Something that I was first skeptical about. But now that I see the practical application of it, and from a candidate standpoint, again, what it has done with candidates is, in other words, the voters often were placed in a situation where they had to choose one candidate or the other. And then somebody may I ran with a lot of people who were committed to the candidate that the dominant political club had endorsed. That was Al Ban. Be to have candidate, And many of the people who like me, they were B members, and so they had to go with their club. Now, if I had, but it makes me your second choice. Then I think from a candidate standpoint, it gives you the ability to negotiate voters and still do more voters. And so it's interesting. I'm going to watch it and see how everything works out. And you know, we need a lot more education. For example, you can't come in and write Eric Adams 5 times, because if you do that, you invalidate your ballot. So things like that our community needs to know.
But that's the thing, right? So I mean, they are spending money trying to educate folks on how this works. But one of the problems, though, Brother Conrad, is that some folks are saying that brothers and sisters in our community who are used to the winner takes all, will they take the opportunity to write in their top 5, right? Will they even want to go through that? Because for some of them, it's like, wait a minute, I got to read this thing and go through picking 5 names. Come on, man, I don't even want to vote in the first place.
But to that point, Ed,
Well,
but to that,
it's like
but this is
everything else.
yeah. But to that point, this the way Reverend Tiller, the way you're explaining it, it's almost like watching a live relay race. So if I want to stay in first place, it's incumbent upon me to not only to rely on the general education, but I have to educate my people and say, now you got to get out there and vote, because if I don't stay number 1, number 2 can come up behind just by virtue of this ranking system and pull up and get close. So because you have to get to 51%. But this is going to be really interesting to look at, because it to me, it's a motivator to engage people to get out and vote that day. Because now you can't rely on, if I don't get to 51%, we can get a second bite at the apple, because that is already happening simultaneously. Oh, okay. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure that we have done enough political education or voter education in this process. So it will be interesting to see. But as you correctly said, we've got to overcome the apathy. Got to conflict. That was because politics, politrick is the competition, and in all competition, you can be validated for not having a firm command and grasp of the rules. So competition resources, and of course, it's up to the campaign and the city and the board of elections, preachers, and leaders, community folks, on this early change.
Well, I know your explanation. His explanation was far more the best explanation I've received yet. So they need you to be out there explaining this process, because it was very simple. You made it very simplified in terms of the importance of people not to have voter apathy, and also as a candidate, because we always, as candidates, we hear like, I really like you, Donna, but my union wants me to support this person, and to be able to come back and say, I can appreciate that, but here's what you can do. Can I be your second choice? That's a big.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think one of the ways, perhaps to, when we talk about political education, is to, because we have this conversation here, right, where we talk about, we'll say, well, who's your top 5 hip hop artists? Who's your top 3? I think one of the ways that we can help along that journey is to be able to say to our community, well, think of it in terms of that. If I were to ask you, what was your top 5 best love songs, right? What was your top 5, best Marvin Gaye song? Think of it in terms of that, right? And then just, so because remember, in our community, we've always played this game, right? Of, who was the lesser of two evils, right? And I, because I can remember coming up when I was a kid, my dad would always say, well, I like that guy, but we got to vote the lesser of two evils. That he ain't no better than the other guy, but he's a little better,
Yeah, speaking of that, I remember Dead Prez.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, Dead Prez did a whole rap. I wish Assemblyman was still on. Dead Prez did don't give me that. They did a whole song about don't tell me to vote the lesser of two evils. You was what's the lyric? I can't. I got you want Hannibal Lecter or I got to think about the they said something in one of their songs about the voting the lesser of two evils. Just thinking about Charles Barron. So, but Reverend Tillard, so are you prepared to give us your ranking 5? Can we get your top 5, or should we come back and ask you that after the 22nd?
Well, I tell you, my top.
Well, can you give us not the top 5? Can you give us a ranking order for you? I'm sorry.
Well, I get top 2, and that's because, I think Ray McGuire and his folks reached out to me. I've known Ray. Ray is out of Columbus, Ohio. He worked his way up. He's a good man. I think he's a bit out of touch. The median home price in Brooklyn, what, $8? It probably doesn't deal with anything. It doesn't have 6 zeros behind. That's the least amount of money he deals with, because you can buy a project apartment in Brooklyn for $80,000. But I told him, I said, listen, Ray, you might be able to help Eric as his economic czar. And I told him, if you win, Eric ought to be your least. So I like Ray. I'm a little concerned. Whatever we don't Bill de Blasio point. The city cannot take another mayor that is ideological and yet has no executive experience, will not grab bull by horns, because this has been a dismal administration. The city has gone to hell, and COVID may have been a blessing to the fuel. Just the dismal performance that he has displayed, and how the quality of life in this city has plummeted. And so, brothers, I don't care at him. Eric is not perfect. Eric is he's a Brooklyn politician, so he's got the constituency that he has had to serve. But I trust him. When I was in the Nation of Islam, and the mosque was attacked, when we shot at it, when Alton met C. Vernon Mason and Al Sharpton stood with Tawana Brawley, and all the things, everywhere I was, in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, Adams was too. And I can't say that about any other candidate. He and that band of 100 going for.
Conrad, your sound is really coming in and out. Like your sound is really coming like hello?
Did we lose them all again?
I don't know why things are going so poorly, but I hate that. Well, I'm going to log off and turn back on.
Okay. All right. So, Donna, and I know you were wanting to get more into New York city politics, and just on terms of just like, hey, what's going on? I was going to ask some questions about quality of life, people who live there, and what it means, right? Conrad, we got you back.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Radio Raheem, what's up? So he looked like Radio Raheem.
Can you hear me any better? I'll take that. Can you hear me any better?
Yes.
He's in the car. That's why
Yeah.
he's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
see my mouth move, but can you hear me better?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
We can.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Excellent. All right. Well, I don't know what happened. Thank God. But what I was saying, I don't know what you heard.
No,
man.
80s and
And
90s,
that's
Yeah.
where black people were. We were fighting, whether
There you
it
go.
was okay, great. I was saying that, you know, when the mosque was attacked at 126th Street, Eric Adams was there. When Louima was shot, Eric Adams was there. When Tawana Brawley was being mistreated, and when the brothers stood up for her, Eric was there. When Abner Louima, all of the cases in the 80s and 90s, that hardy band of men, Noel Leader and Graham Witherspoon, these were dedicated black brothers and sisters in the law enforcement field. And these people were actually working, and they stood with Yusuf Hawkins, Moses, and Diane. Every issue, they went to get Mike Tyson when he came out of jail. So, I mean, every issue of the black community in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, Eric Adams has been there. And my point is, where I like Maya, but where was she then? I'm not saying she wasn't, but she wasn't in the streets of New York. Ray McGuire was not in the streets of New York. Scott Stringer was not. Corey Yang wasn't. I don't know if he was even in New York City. I don't know. He may have been out to lunch. But the point I'm making is, when you know somebody, you work with somebody, they've been there. You know, you got to go with them, and that's what I'm hoping that black folks will do with Eric Adams. We got a lot of young people that don't quite understand. They have this sort of zero tolerance for law enforcement, which is misguided. It's an immature perspective. I admired him because I wondered always what it was like for him when he was standing with us and then having to go to work the next day and work with people from the PBA.
Yes.
And so we have to give him credit for that. He's proven to be an effective legislator, borough president. He's done a great job. And I think we need our second black mayor, and Eric Adams will be a great mayor. The first mayor, lastly, came out of Manhattan. He was a white collar mayor, came out of that great political club in Harlem, that the great Percy Ellis Sutton, Basil Patterson, Charles Rangel. But the mayor should come from Brooklyn this time, a blue collar guy, and Eric Adams is that person.
So let me
also,
go ahead.
also, Brother Conrad, let me ask you this before we run out of time.
Sure.
Do you now, you know that there are 16 people that are running for the for the council seat, right, in New York. Now, is there anybody in that seat running that you like?
In which seat? Which seat?
Council, well, particularly in Harlem.
Well, Harlem. I think Bill Perkins is going to win that seat again.
Wow.
I mean, I think because of name recognition. There's Cordell Clare is a powerful sister. I think Cordell, is probably the person that deserves it most. And she used to work for Perkins, but she's really been working hard. And if she can pull it off, that will be good for the community. But Bill Perkins is a good man. He's worked hard. That's
but
part
he's
of the
70
problem.
years old, though, Brother Conrad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Bill is that old?
I agree.
Yeah, 70.
I thought Bill was mine.
Yeah, I'm almost 60, so yeah, Bill is over 70. I mean, near 70. But the thing about it is, there's some folks in that race that I respect. William Allen, he was with the Movement for Change. We elected him district leader in that community. But the fact of the matter is, we need candidates who are tested and proven. And we have a plethora of young people that are running, and many of them, come from outside of the community. Many of them have this sort of Obama mentality. And what I'm concerned about in places like Bedford-Stuyvesant, I'm supporting Robert Waterman, Reverend Robert Waterman in Bedford-Stuyvesant, because what we need are grassroots people, young, old. They've got to be grassroots people that care about the community, that are not merely using the city council seat as a stepping stone to a broader seat, a broader constituency. And so I'm hoping that uh, uh, Harlem, Bed-Stuy, South Jamaica, Queens, the Bronx, I've got good friends running all over the city. So
Well, let me ask you this one. Because you raised a question about law enforcement and how folks have to be a little bit more sophisticated about that. How do you see the DA's race?
Well, from what I understand, Alvin Bragg is a good candidate. I don't know him well, but I believe that he is going to emerge as victorious. He's got a broad base of support. People like Keisha Sutton, Percy Sutton's granddaughter in Harlem, is running that campaign, and others. So I think he has a great chance of winning that race, which would be very significant. We've already had the first African American district attorney in Brooklyn and in the Bronx, but we have not had that in Manhattan. So that would be very significant.
And Brother Conrad, let me, I know John was going to ask some quality of life. I know for working in New York for 10 years, a lot of my doctors, I still come to the doctors in New York.
Yes.
And my doctor is very concerned, who lives in New York, is very concerned about the quality of life. And there has been a noticeable, and it's how the media tells the story. I'm not living there, so I can't say that. So the story is being told that crime is very different from when Bloomberg was in office. That's the comparison. And with that being said, so that is playing out, because the way the optics on the media, like when I hear Reverend Youngblood come out for this person, but he's talking about somebody who's not even in the top 5, is really interesting.
Right.
But then I'm listening, and I'm a Sirius XM person, and so when you get Clay Kane, he was interviewing, the person that Youngblood is endorsing, but Eric didn't call. So tell Eric, I know that means he's busy out in the street, and people don't understand when you out here knocking on door to door, it's hard for you to be on everybody's radio station. But we gotta, and that's where we have to have somebody to do this and everything. So tell them to call Sirius XM back, because he ain't calling back. Okay. And but one of the things
I think his position is Sirius XM as a national radio show.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about and you're absolutely right, because seeing somebody from Jersey give you my perspective. But what I will tell you, when I had the opportunity to sit down and tell my doctor what impressed me about Eric Adams was the story that he said I got beat up by police, which resulted in me becoming a police. And my doctor looked at me and was like, wow, I never heard that story. So I have to tell you that, he really was like, Don, are you serious? So I think that, it was like, wow. So I think Eric is a very good contender, and he's probably out there working the streets, but tell him to keep doing what he's doing and tell that story. A lot of people didn't know that story.
Yeah. And like when you think about it, I don't know in New Jersey, but I know in New York, we have a lot of civil servants. These are jobs that were open to our people. So you have a lot of MTA workers. You have a lot of brothers and sisters that made it to sanitation. We're still fighting to open up the fire department. But the police force was one of those civil service occupations that we kicked the door down so that African Americans could take the test, that they could become officers and commanders. And, we have achieved to a great extent a large Black and Latino presence. And quite frankly, also in corrections. And I know because I've worked with many brothers over the years in corrections, and those brothers in the institution are always better served when you have strong Black conscious people in these positions. That's why the union for the black police officers was called the Guardians Association. And so that was their commitment to the community. And Eric probably exemplifies that better than most people I know.
Now, I was going to say thank you, so much, Reverend Tiller, because I know that we want to, every time you come on, we learn something, and definitely want to know a lot more about what's going on in the New York's race, because I think it's just uniquely interesting this year with so many different candidates, and especially when what you were saying about the mayor and stuff. So we definitely are looking forward to having you back. We are getting ready to transition into the state of DJ Rhino and the state of hip hop.
All right, Brother Conrad. Thank you, my brother.
Peace. God bless.
Well, wait, but Reverend Conrad, you need to let us know who you're rocking though before you leave. You just can't leave like that. You just can't run away. You got to let us know what hip hop you rocking with right now.
What am I rocking with?
Yeah.
You know what I've been listening to? A young brother out of New York City that is now in California. His name is Amir Says Nothing. And he has a new album out called The Brighter Side, and he is my son. And if you play anything, look it up. Play his song R&R or It's Not All Good. He is a dynamic young artist. We're working on his consciousness and his prophetic voice. But that's all I've been listening to. Amir Says Nothing. Endless Bright Side is the album.
And I want Rhino to have the last word with you, Reverend Tiller, because he was in New York last Saturday because they just were you aware? Tell him what you were there, Reverend Tiller, and did you know that this was going on in New York last weekend? What would you the event for the sister last week, Rhino?
Sha-Rock, MC Sha-Rock.
MC Sha-Rock. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
What was the event? Brother
the event, she had an event. First of all, peace to you, Brother Conrad.
Peace, my brother. Peace.
All right.
Good to see you always.
Definitely, much love. I went to the Sha-Rock event. It was June 5th. It was called Sha-Rock Day. They're calling June 5th Sha-Rock Day. So anytime June 5th comes up, that's Sha-Rock's Day. But they had it at Gun Hill Magenta Park in the South Bronx.
Yes.
Went down there. I took my daughter because, it's a female MC. She was the first female MC even before records were being made with hip hop. She was out there doing it with the brothers. And so I brought my daughter and her two friends. Luckily, I got my daughter to actually speak with Sha-Rock briefly. And I got a couple of shots with that. I originally wanted to get a shot with them together, just, posing for a picture. But Sha-Rock was so busy, and my daughter and her two friends, they moved, they doing their own thing. But it was beautiful to have them together and talk. But the event itself was beautiful. It was all in her name and all in her spirit. You know what I'm saying? They had the echo chamber on the microphone. DJ Barron and DJ Breakout were there. Chuck Chillout was there. They were all DJing for. Jazzy J was there. A lot of people I met there. And I got to tell this story real quick. When I first got there, now anybody that knows me, like any of my closest friends that know me, like I'm not really like a fan kind of guy. I don't really fan out too much, you know what I'm saying? So I don't try to get pictures with celebrities and stuff like that. If I see them, I might say, hey, what's up, man? Keep doing what you're doing, love what you're doing. And I keep it moving, but I don't get into like, can I get an autograph or picture or anything like that. So, but this time, right, I get there. One of the first people I see is Grand Wizard Theodore. He's the inventor of the scratch in hip hop, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm like, all right, you know what? If I do this, I'm gonna have to do this at least with Grand Wizard Theodore. Let me try to get a picture. So I try to get a picture with Grand Wizard Theodore. He was open to to do the picture. My wife was having a problem with getting the shot done, taking the picture with the camera. So we tried like 3 times. At some point, he was kind of looking like he wasn't interested in this photo no more. He move on, you know what I'm saying?
Like, no, brother, I want to do it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, and now I'm the type, I'm not going to be like, So I was like, I say, all right, I just said thank you to him and just moved on. You know what I'm saying? Whether she got the shot or not, which she didn't at the time. So I was kind of, I was a little broken that, we didn't get the shot with Grand Wizard Theodore because I don't normally do that. And I tried to do that with Grand Wizard Theodore and didn't get the shot. So what happens is I try to redeem myself and try to make up for not getting the shot with Grand Wizard Theodore. And I ended up getting shots with like a whole bunch of the legends that were there. I got a shot with Melly Mel. I got a shot with Grandmaster Caz. Got a shot with Jazzy J. LA Sunshine from the Treacherous 3, Peso from the Fearless 4. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about real pioneers. Sparky D, who was like the nemesis of Roxanne Shante. You know what I'm saying? You know, got shots with all of these people, man. It was just good to see them. Good to see them in their element. You know what I'm saying? Melly Mel got on stage and killed it like a real showman. You know, he was on some real showman stuff. You know what I mean? His showmanship was crazy. So Melly Mel Rod Digger hosted, and Rod Digger was up there and looking real colorful.
Brooklyn take it, but Bronx keeps creating it. So you were in the right place.
Yeah, most definitely. It was great. It was great energy, man. It was just great energy, man. Yeah.
But check out Amir Says Nothing. Okay.
Now listen. I think I heard of that. I think I heard of that name. So I'm definitely going to look back into it because when you said that, I was like, wow. I feel like I've heard of Amir Says Nothing. I feel like I've heard of that. So I'm definitely going to look into that. Most definitely.
Peace, my brothers and sisters.
Peace,
Brother Conrad.
All right. Have a good evening.
Yep.
I got Amir Says Nothing. So hey, we got Rashad. So we got to bring him up. You got, hey, young man, how you doing? So go ahead, Rhino. Your guest is here. I didn't see that.
Yep. So
peace.
State of hip hop.
Rashad, you can hear us well?
Yes. Can y'all hear me?
All right. What's good, brother? It's good seeing you, family.
Oh, good seeing you, brother. Always.
Yes. Now, I just want to give people some background on our relationship. I know just over at least I'll just say at least the last 10 years. It could definitely be more than that, but definitely over the last 10 to 15 years, me and this brother, we've crossed each other's path a lot. And it's usually in hip hop situations, whether it's a hip hop event or whatever, whether it's music creation or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We've crossed each other's path, and it's always been love. It's always been an exchange of knowledge of music and just knowledge, period. Because his brother, you know, he's definitely on point, man, as far as his consciousness and just keeping on point with what's going on in the world and going on around us. You know what I'm saying? And so this brother, man, you know, so that's why I wanted to bring him on, because he's definitely somebody that I look to as a friend and a good brother. And his music is incredible. He just put out a new album, a new project called 12 Jewels. And that is today the actual release date, Rashad?
Indeed. Well, actually, I had released it on my personal website about a couple weeks ago. And thankfully I did, because it was supposed to be released on all the major streams today. Unfortunately, there was a hiccup with a sample clearance, so I had to resubmit it. So that's going to be available on the streaming sites within the next couple of days. But as of now, it's available on my Bandcamp website. It's been there for about, the past 2 weeks. So thankfully, I did think forward and pre-releasing it before it hit the majors. People have had the opportunity to rock with it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm getting a lot of good feedback also. So yeah, no doubt.
That's what's up. Now you mentioned, the sample clearances. Now it's funny because me and a couple of friends of mine were talking about, we were listening to the album and we were talking about, like, we love the music on the album. The whole album is crazy musically, man.
Thank you.
It's non-skippable. You know what I'm saying? But we were talking about the samples, and we were talking about the sample clearances. Can you talk about anything of what you've had to go through recently as far as clearing samples or dealing with any of that?
I think this is, without going into all the details specifically about the song itself, I think this is just a perfect example of, how it's important to do your research. I mean, I'm not the producer on the album. The album was produced by, his good brother out in California, Klepto. So he was responsible for all this, the sound bites, the music itself, beats, so on and so forth. Right. So me and him was building on it, and I think it just reminded us of how it's important to to do your research on the music that you're using, and more importantly, right, paying homage and respect, and monetarily, taking care of any artist that you utilize in their music. So I think this was a wake up call, a reminder. Those of us that are familiar and old enough to be familiar with the whole sample issue with hip hop dating back to Bismarck and De La Soul and Beastie Boys, and and all the sample troubles that they had, back in the early, the early 90s, well, actually late 80s, early 90s, it set precedents. So I think this was just a reminder, because the song that basically got flagged was a very important song, and it's called "People Get Ready," and it sampled the Dionne Warwick song. I said I wasn't gonna get into the specifics, but I'm getting into the specifics. So
right.
And it sampled the Dionne Warwick song that we should have handled appropriately, but we didn't. So when the album is released on the streaming sites, that song will not be included in the project. However, it is included on the CDs, and it's also included on the version that is currently available on my Bandcamp website. So I treat it as like a bonus joint.
Right. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know for the people that's that's looking out for the movement. To understand that, because honestly, man, throughout the years, that's stuff that we've gone through. Where we'll hear an album and we'll wonder, well, how come this song wasn't on your version of the album? And they may have had the cassette of the album, you know what I mean, or the CD of the album, or whatever. Different, it's different legal things that we don't know about, but that goes on. So it's good to know that. What was you gonna say, Don?
No, I was gonna say, so as Rashad is talking, and he said you do your research, I go and pull up one of his songs, and the first song that came up was that song on YouTube. But shout out to Dionne. Dionne is a home. She's from the Orange area, so you sampled the right person. So that's
word is bond. You know what I mean?
That's my cousin's. It's my cousin's godmother. So yes,
that's peace. And it's interesting enough. That's the first song. That's the first song that me and the brother Klepto recorded together. I mean, he, and I don't know. I've never met the brother in person. We got acquainted with each other on social media, specifically Instagram, and he posted the track, and I just loved the vibe of it. You know what I mean? So I did. I sent him a response, a comment. Was like like this, the fire emoji. Next thing I know, he was in my DMs like, you want to rock to it, and the rest is history. So that's a crazy, song.
Produced by him, right?
Yeah, he produced the whole joint. You know what I mean? The whole joint. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, just for the people, because like I said, you and I always cross each other's path, and that could be in Newark, it could be in East Orange, it could be in Irvington, Montclair. As long as it was hip hop, we always cross each other's path. But tell the people where you're from.
Actually, I was born and raised in Passaic, New Jersey. That's where I spent my childhood and my young adulthood. You know what I mean? I graduated from Passaic High School in '88. You know what I'm saying? And then when I went to college, I took a couple years off after high school, thinking that the whole dream is I'm about to get a record deal, about to blow up and all that. And then reality kicked in. Reality kicked in when it didn't move as I wanted it to move, and I decided to go to college.
Okay.
So me and a couple of my boys, we decided to enroll in Essex County College in Newark. And basically, long story short, I relocated to Newark in about '91. I spent like 15 years in Newark. Currently, I live out in Union County. So, you know what I mean. So that's basically my history. But my foundation, my childhood is Passaic, New Jersey.
All right.
Now the funny thing about that, the way you just told that story, if I wasn't from here, I was thinking like I grew up in Passaic and then I relocated. So now I'm thinking you had to move 2 days away. And now you live another 2 days away in Union County. The way you just told that story. So you're good at storytelling. I'm just listening. Like you could have got on the bus and went from Passaic to Essex County College.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Right. Like a 30-minute trip, right?
Right away, right?
No doubt.
Where you at in Union County now?
I'm in Springfield.
Okay, all right.
Oh my God. Let me tell you something. Do you know that town was so white 20, 30 years ago? They wouldn't let none of us live in no Springfield.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with the history. Yes, sir.
I'm
Yes,
originally
sir.
from Plainfield. Well, with the school of Roselle, so I know you got it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Rashad,
So
the funny thing is, Assemblyman Wimberly, he kind of helped Fetty Wap get, to put his story out there. And I never forget, and it seems like Assemblyman Wembley interviewed Fetty Wap, and the story that they had, Fetty Wap tells a story of how, I guess, in Pat, he's from Patterson, but all along that main street from Clifton to Patterson, he would be out there selling his CDs and things like that. So you're like the generation before Fetty Wap. Is that pretty much the culture? Like you get out there and hustle, and sell your music? Because that was one of the things that stood up about when I read about him coming to age. It was him being downtown Patterson and putting his music on a CD and out there selling them, going from club to club.
right. Well, I'm old enough to be Fetty Wap's daddy. So, you're right. I'm a generation before Fetty. But I think the days and times are different. You know what I mean? Like, the way that, social media has taken over the world, that has opened up the world, to each other. And, you might have your pockets of younger artists that might, feel like they have to pound the pavement, but now the universe is a click away. So, anybody could get online and post something, and, you never know who connected with it across the world, across seas. So basically, that the generation that we're part of now, as far as our global connection, is just that, most of the work that I do as far as connecting with people is via the internet. Like I said, my connection with Klepto was done on social media as a result of this project. And I put out several projects in the past, but as a result of this project, specifically 12 Jewels, I'm getting responses and reactions from people in Germany, in Europe, in Asia. I have producers, reaching out to me, on all four corners of the earth, wanting to do work with me as a result of them listening to this project that would have never happened by, going the route of being on the corner selling CDs. And by no means am I saying that that's not important, because you do need to have that personal connection with your people. So as a result, I have CDs produced for this particular project. A lot of them are being sold online, but then, I have sold some hand to hand. So, I think it's really a combination of both. Really depends on where you are as an artist and where maybe your fan base is rooted in. But most of the work in these days and times is really done electronically. So I think that's just the wave we're at this point.
Yeah, times are definitely different right now as far as technology. You know what I'm saying? And nowadays you'll find more of your fan base online than you will in the streets, like back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, you'd be out in the streets and like Donna was saying, club to club, block to block, street to street, whatever, studio to studio. That's how it was. But now it's almost like, it's all about just getting your stuff out there online. And it's not a bad thing, because you can get your stuff further than you would as far as doing it hand to hand, because now you can get your stuff across seas a lot easier.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, a lot of artists is not even producing CDs. You know what I mean? Anymore. However, there's a nostalgic era returning as far as vinyl and cassettes.
Yes.
Yep.
Right, there's a big market about regarding vinyl and cassettes now.
Love vinyl. Yeah,
right.
I see
and
that.
I'm a vinyl collector as well. You know what I mean? So I collect vinyl, and I cherish my vinyl collection. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
When I was, I'm just a music head. Like I still got thousands of CDs that I now packed away, but I still got access to them. So, but right now my focus is on collecting vinyl. You know what I mean? But now there's a wave about recreating like cassettes. A lot of artists are, putting their music on cassettes because there's a nostalgic wave. So as we know, life is revolving and evolving, and
nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Yes.
So is 12 Jewels gonna be on vinyl?
That's the plan. I'm building with Klepto about that as we speak. trying to find, you know, a vinyl company that's willing to put it out. So yeah, that's, you know, that's in the works, no doubt.
And maybe Dave Chappelle just said his new record is coming out on vinyl.
Absolutely.
And
everybody's trying to go back
yeah. So that's so y'all just, and don't ever tell anybody. Don't ever tell anybody you're old enough to be Fetty Wap's father, because nobody knows that. You don't have to let people, because you know. But
let me say, let me say this.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I wear it. I wear it like a badge of honor.
Rashad,
that's right.
Right. I wear it like a badge of honor. Right.
That's what's up.
I don't take life. I don't take life for granted. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I'm 50. I'm 50 years old. I'm 50 years old. You know what I'm saying?
We those baby.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of us that we know in our communities that don't live to see this age, right? So, you know, I don't shy away from it. You know,
right.
Plus, as an artist, right, I know and understand that at the end of the day, I can compete with whomever. You know what I mean? Regardless of my age.
You could go.
Right? And that ain't nothing cocky. That ain't nothing.
No, it is what it is. It is. It is what it is.
I just preserve myself well. Myself well. And honestly, most of the greats in hip hop, most of the greats are 40 plus. 40
exactly.
Plus.
Yeah. And you know what? Go ahead.
Most of the greats right now, like I said, I was at the Shine Rock event. Most of the greats right now are 60 plus.
Yeah,
a lot of them are 60 plus right now. I'm 50 as well, and I'll be 51 in September.
Right.
And most of our greats, our greatest pioneers, they're 60 and up. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy to see that they still got it, because like I said, Melly Mel and a few
with showmanship.
Yeah, man, it's no joke, man. They still got it. It's not a. Rodney C went up there from Funky 4.
60 is not a bad thing.
But you know what it is too, that you we come from a generation where you had to perform. And you know, one of the things, Rashad, that I tell people is that from a Thursday, now I'm born in 67, I'll be 54 this year, and we, from a Thursday to a Sunday, we started at Whispers in Patterson and ended up down in Sensations in North. And you know, and said word is bond. And I can remember seeing LL Cool J down in Sensations for $10. And we had the shows, you know, that LL and them did coming up were, oh my gosh, the performances that they did. And probably if I knew half the hustle, he probably left Sensations and went and did like 4 more clubs that night, because we didn't close till like 4 o'clock in the morning. So you had to perform. So there's something to that longevity that has preserved you here. But I always say that they don't even understand, you know, we really had, you know, what the night scene that we were able to get from a Passaic County to an Essex County was phenomenal. That they'll never understand.
And you gotta think, some of the greatest performers, the greatest entertainers in hip hop right now, just off the head. I mean, there's others, but just off the head, I'll say Melly Mel, Dougie Fresh, who else? Big Daddy Kane. You know what I'm saying? People like that, man, that really come out, man, and they put on a show. You know what I mean? They put on a show, and Big Daddy
Kane can still do a split today. He can still do that split.
Yeah, still doing all that stuff. You know what I mean? Yo, for real.
Actual fact.
That I ain't gonna do.
Yeah. Chris, I want to say peace to Chris. I see Chris popped in, but I want to go to Rashad, because I definitely want to get into this album, man. And you know, to be honest, you know, like I said, you know, we've crossed each other's path over the years. And I have other stuff. I mean, I got stuff from like 2013 that you did that I'm feeling. We could talk about your whole career, but right now we got like maybe a half hour left. I want to get into this album. 12 Jewels, brother. 12 Jewels. There's a lot of. I got so many questions, brother, because this album. I've been listening to this album for a minute now since you put it out. Definitely, man. The title. 12 Jewels. What's behind the title?
Long story short, it's about information, right? It's about inspiration and information. It's about making sure that every song has that in it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's a variety of music on the album. You know what I mean? Some of it, you know, some songs are specifically conscious. Some songs is about, you know, just pure MCing. But either way, you're gonna find a jewel in it. You're gonna walk away, you know, like I come from an era of MCing, whereas, you know, when cassettes was heavy, you know, we spent a lot of time breaking a lot of cassette decks because the rewind button would get stuck because we rewinding like, yo, you just heard that, like you just heard you just heard what he said. So I still have that state of mind, like leaving people walking away with some information that they want to go back to, that want to, you know, that they want to, you know, that may spark their mind into thinking different, doing different. So basically, that's what it's about. 12 jewels. I mean, it's 12 songs, including, you know, the intro and the outro. So every song is.
I had to do the knowledge and the math on that too. I had to do the knowledge and the math on that. I was like, all right, well, it's 12 jewels. You got 14 joints. I was like, all right, but he got the intro and the outro, so it's 12 songs in between. All right, cool. Back. That's just something. You said the production is by Klepto. You said from Cali.
Klepto. Yes, yes, Northern California. I think it's Oceanside, California. Yeah.
Now, who did the cover art? Because the cover is crazy, and you've been pushing that a lot too. I noticed you've been pushing the cover of the album. The cover reminds me of some.
Take me back to Sunrise days.
Yo, man, for real,
absolutely.
man. Yo, it takes me back, and for me and my generation, it takes me back to like J. Rue the Damager and Afu Ra and them. You know what I'm saying? The artwork on there, man. Who did the artwork on that?
Yeah, it's just another cat that I, you know, saw his work on Instagram. Go by the name of Huey P. We all know the science about that, right? Right. This brother, you know, I was just, you know, again, trying to think of, you know, artistic concepts that I think would match the music. And, you know, the album was done long before we got the artwork. So I'm scrolling through, you know, through Facebook, through Instagram, and I see this, you know, this art captured me, kind of cartoonish, but it always seemed like it had like some science in it. So, you know, I hit him up, DM'd him, and asked him, you know, would he be interested in doing some work? I sent him a couple of the songs, and he returned with that. And when I got it, I just stared at it for like 5 minutes. Like I ain't, you know, like I was like, wow. Like part of me wanted to go back and like rework some songs. Like I don't even know if the music,
just to fit the artwork, right?
You know what I'm saying? But the artwork is, you know, phenomenal. And I honestly, a lot of people, I can't say a lot. There has been people that have listened to the music as a result of the artwork.
Right. It's true because it draws you in.
The artwork is magnetic.
When you see that cover, it makes you want to hear the music.
Cool. Yeah,
we get to. Can we show the artwork? We have a picture of the artwork. Can we show it real quick?
And it's 12 jewels on the album cover too.
Is Mike there? Can he put it up? Is somebody around to put it up?
If while we're talking, if they can put it up, because I just put it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
But go. 12 jewels.
Let's get into it, man. So, you know what I noticed, man. What I noticed about the album, man. Your intro and your outro. You got brother Khalid Muhammad. Rest in peace to brother Khalid Muhammad.
That's personal to me.
Yeah, brother.
I was Khalid's staff in the Black Panther Party.
Yes, sir.
All right. What's the name of that joint?
What?
The joint that got Khalid. What's the name of it?
It's the intro and the outro of the album. The intro of the album has Khalid on it. The outro has Khalid on it.
Oh yeah.
So he did like an album style. How you would have the intro and the outro.
Real hip hop album. It's a real hip hop album. It's a real hip hop album. The intro was called Inspiration and Information, and then the outro is called Self-Determination and Self-Defending.
Yes, sir.
And it's got brother Khalid speaking on both.
And the ill thing about it,
I'm gonna have that on ridiculous blast.
Yeah.
And the ill thing about it is that's actually a caption from his interview from the Phil Donahue show.
Right.
Yes.
Those of us that remember that interview.
He crushed it.
Right there. There's the artwork on the screen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Looking like Sun Ra.
And Rhino, I don't know if you heard, Chris was saying, he was asking about the 12 jewels, the actual 12 jewels sitting there. Chris was making a statement about the 12 jewels that are sitting there.
Sitting there in front of him on the
Yeah.
cover?
Yeah.
Yep, and each one is has knowledge. Each one has information.
Absolutely.
Information and inspiration.
But the picture is either Charlemagne or Melchizedek, but it has Rashad Sun's image facing it. But that's a famous picture. The actual picture is an actual him.
Oh wow!
He's juxtaposing Rashad Sun with these two actual rulers.
You know what? I didn't even know that.
He didn't. Wow. Did you hear that? Yeah. So just coming around. And even the jewels and even for this generation, because I'm thinking of, is that the Marvel character that had the big thing with the jewels? So it's funny how, people's interpretation can come from so many different ways right now, So
I heard somebody say in another interview, rappers are superheroes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're superheroes.
Well, at least we should be.
Exactly. We should be. There's some villains out there. Oh yeah, we should be. But yeah, so all right, so we got the intro. Now you start the album off with my favorite song on the whole album. You set it off properly for me, man. Yes, man. I Am For Real is my favorite song on the album. And trust me, I'm gonna be banging it. Actually, I go on tomorrow. I do a mix on Twitch.tv every Saturday at 3 p.m. And I'm gonna
blast that out. Yeah,
I'm gonna set it off with not just that song, but I'm gonna set it off with your album. I'm gonna take your album and I'm just gonna do a mix of your album.
Wow.
I'm gonna start the mix off like that. But that song, bro, I Am For Real, is my favorite song, man. Give me a little background behind that song, because the thing about that song for me is, number one, the energy of the beat when it comes on, and for me, the lyrics, it's everything for me. It starts off with the beat, but then it ends up with the lyrics. And the lyrics, I think the first lyric that touched me in that song was when you said something about when the lights come on, you're shooting at the mirror. That really hit me, man. I'm like, yo, that's you got some lines, you got some lyrics in that song, man. Give me a little background of
Thank you.
For real.
Thank you. That's the last song that was recorded.
Oh wow!
That was the last song that was recorded. That song was recorded.
And you set the album off with it.
That song was recorded as a result of looking at that artwork.
Wow!
I felt like I needed something else. I felt like I needed something hard, right? And I didn't even tell Klepto what I was looking for. I was just like, yo, I think we need another joint, yo. And Klepto was a lot younger than me, right? So I'm not really sure exactly what generation of hip hop inspires him. So when he sent it to me, I was like, do you even realize what this is? Like, this is a classic break. Like, this is a classic break beat. Amen, Brother by the Winstons. Like, it's a classic hip hop break beat. And that was just my wheelhouse. Like, that was just what I needed. And that's the result of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like that.
I definitely respect your lyricism, man, because that was another thing. Anytime we seen each other again, we seen each other at hip hop events, and some of those hip hop events you got on stage and you did your thing, and that's what drew me to you, was your lyricism, man, and what you were talking about. You always had something conscious to talk about, something real to talk about that we can connect to.
Thank you.
And just not just the usual that we hear. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that song, the whole album actually, but that song definitely, because you set it off with that one, that song really got me. Again, that lyric, you were just talking about, how the cops do us and stuff on that song. The allegory line, I caught that one. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you were really, dog. You went in on that song, bro, and I really love that song. Appreciate you for that one. I'm definitely
let that sun shine, little brother. Right on.
Man. Yeah. So another standout song for me, just because it's just a boom bap. I mean, the New Best. That song you got called Best. it's that beat is so hard, and you just it's just that's for me. I'm one of those hip hop dudes that's just into the hard boom bap joints, and that's one of those for me. You just really went in on some good MC rhymes, and the beat is hard as soon as it drops, man. And you got any background on that one?
I just wanted to. That's one of them joints. I just wanted to show and prove that I'm nice. You know what I mean?
Hey,
I mean that's just the bottom line. But however,
right now, because you definitely did it.
You know what I mean? I appreciate that, but but it got some jewelry in there too. So I mean, it's
no doubt, no doubt. That's one thing about that album. That's one thing about your album, and one of my brothers, my man Johnny Dangerous, he said this years ago about me, but I say this about you, bro, is that one thing about you, no matter how hard you go or how gritty it gets, you never cross the line of your consciousness and what you know. You know what I'm saying? You stick to your knowledge, and you stick to your grounds, man. You know what I mean? And I respect that. You know what I'm saying?
That's always important to me. And then honestly, there's been times
that's dignity and integrity. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And there's been times where I tried to consciously not, and I just can't. Like I just can't.
Right. I'm the same exact way. I'm the same way. I can't. Even when I try, I can't. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it's like you're conscious or something in you knows better. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not gonna let you cross that line.
Right.
I feel you on it, man. I feel you. Another one that I like, and I like it for a personal reason. A song you got called "Like So Many Others." The sample that you use on that song, I actually had that same exact sample years ago. I never used it for anything, but I had that same sample looped up, and I always played it. I had it on a tape, and I used to always play that sample. And so soon as it drops, I'm like, oh, that's the joint that I had. But I love that song too, man. The energy on that song is real, man. You know what I'm saying? All your songs are one thing I noticed about all your songs. They're personal. You know what I'm saying? They touch you like in a personal kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Yep. You know, like the song you got, the memories and stuff like that. You know, what you gonna say, John?
Yeah, like, do you own the rights to your music? Do we have permission to play it?
Yes.
All right, so I mean, like, if you own the rights.
Well, no, the music, the one I put up there was the one with Dion. Can we play that one?
We can't play that one.
We can't play that one. That's the one I put up there. I
could play my favorite one.
Okay.
You could play the first single, "You're Welcome."
So if you do the one from the 38 minutes, you can play that one because that's his album. But just don't put the first. I'll repost it. The one you want just his album then. Okay.
Yeah.
Because okay. I'll do that one. Okay.
All right. So let's. You just mentioned "You're Welcome," so we can try to jump into that. Tell me something about "You're Welcome," because that was like the first single that you dropped, right?
Yeah. First single and video, no doubt.
And what was the meaning behind "You're Welcome"? Some people didn't understand the meaning of the title. Like, "You're welcome" for what? What was your welcome?
It's just an appreciation, right? You know, like over the years, you know, like we having this conversation now, and you know, I'm thankful that the accolades that you're giving to me isn't the first time that I'm hearing them, right? So I appreciate that. You know, I'm a humble brother, you know what I mean, but I'm confident in what it is that I do. But every time somebody gives me an accolade or even a criticism for that matter, you know what I mean, I take it to heart and I try to build on it, right? So "You're Welcome" is just me saying, you know, I appreciate what you're saying to me, you know what I mean? Because people have said to me, like, thank you for doing what you do. And the proper response to that is "You're welcome." So I just captured it in the song to say, like, "You're welcome." Because I'm going to continue to give you what it is that you expect from me. I can only be my true and divine self. That's all I could be. You know what I'm saying? So for those that appreciate that and, you know, continue to remind me of that, this is my appreciation and response.
Right. Okay. So all right, I'm gonna try to pull it up now. You know, the way we got the technology going.
Yeah, and I'm going through all the albums. You have one of your songs. I'm just looking at the list of the titles, and one is called "The Memories." Now, I haven't had the opportunity to listen, but that would, if I was just going to say I want to play this, "The Memories" would be probably one of the first things I go to.
Okay.
Could you tell me a little bit about "The Memories"?
That was just me capturing my childhood.
There you go. Okay.
And the gritty city of Passaic, who was which at one point, Passaic was a glorious city. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my upbringing. So I'm mentioning, people I rode, hung out with, situations and circumstances that we did in our youth. And it's just it's just a glorification of my upbringing. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a groovy joint. You know what I mean? It's something you put on. Like that. Actually, that's my mother's favorite song. You know what I mean? So you put it on and you.
But you
groove
brought
to
up
it,
some.
you know what I'm saying?
It's kind of like you brought up some good, like good personal memories that your mom remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That's what, man. Yeah. But that's how you touch the community when you talk about your actual community. You know what I'm saying? When they hear that stuff, it's like, oh wow, yeah, I remember that too. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they you know what I mean? Now, unfortunately, my clean version of "You're Welcome" it's not coming up.
Oh man,
I still want to play. I have the clean version of my favorite one. I still want to play that. If y'all don't mind,
rock it.
I want to play "I Am For Real." This is my favorite
I
joint.
can't wait till we can get back in the studio.
I know, right?
So that's song number 2. Okay.
Yes.
Song number 2. It's the first song after the intro.
Right.
So here we go. I hope y'all can hear it.
I want to hear Khaled.
Zayid, I put the whole album in there, so you should have it.
Hold on, y'all.
Yeah, I see it, Don. I got it.
Might have to play it a different way. Hold on.
Okay.
The pros and cons of technology, right?
Well,
yeah.
And as he said, so Rashad, what's interesting? There's a lot of one of the things that was missing is having album covers and all the work, because I'm looking at everything from the font you chose to the picture, everything. It's like it's a very thoughtful process that goes into it. It's just not something that's put together, from the artwork that you like, even like we're different. Each of us said we had different thoughts about different things that we have saw. So your inspiration, and that's big because, you have to, like you said, you went to an artist and said, this is, go ahead. I'll wait to Rhino because he got
No, go ahead. I'm still trying to say.
No, I was just saying you had a thought in your mind that you had to talk to an artist about, and the artist had to bring your thought to fruition, and that's important,
Yeah. It's the beauty of collaboration. Saying, one thing that I learned over my years of being a recording artist and doing everything independently, that word independently, that word independent doesn't necessarily mean by yourself. You know what I mean? And I think that when you're collaborating with people that you respect their talent and they respect your talent, and and willing to, we're as artists, sometimes we could be egotistical, or not even egotistical. Sometimes we just have a determined idea in our mind, and we don't allow others to impact that. One thing that we have to learn to grow and respect, that other people may have ideas that bring to the table that might even brighten your determined idea. So this is 12 Jewels is a perfect example of that. Me, taking the back seat to the artwork, taking the back seat to the soundscape, you know what I mean? And just focus on what it is that I do as far as writing and lyricism. And, I think that this is a perfect representation of that, so,
True.
That's what it is,
That's what's up. All right, I want to throw this. I want to see if I can throw this on. Like I said, let's see how the sound quality works. But this is definitely my favorite joint on the album. It's called "I Am For Real" by Rashad Sun on the 12 Jewels album. Go out there and look for it right now because it's out there and it's dope. Check it out.
Do the knowledge, boy. Do the knowledge.
Absolutely.
Let me know if y'all can hear it.
Yeah.
You hear it? They should put the cover up again. There you go.
This ain't no inner scope. This ain't no rhyme scheme. This is a mental note. This is some books I wrote to keep you informed, bro. But not to mislead you, fam. You gotta get involved. You know how to say and go. You lead them to water, but you can't make them drink. You can't make them think. I'm on a break. I'm blacking out. Might think I'm acting out. But I'm truly in tune with what I rap about. I control the narrative, so it's so imperative that I can't live the law of averages. Civilize the savages and assess the damages. I'm ready to hate and take all the advantages. This is a master class, I'll clash your raps. The difference between belief and actual facts. The difference between me and you is actually that I'm a monster, back to attack like I never left. You ain't been never a threat. Who what you spitting, who you kidding, so nevertheless, we got real going on. Kids dying in the streets is going on. Pills, weed, and greed going on. And I'm still playing Marvin, what's going on, what was going wrong. Same song, same rhythm. Every chance to lock your ass up in the same prison. The same knowledge, the same wisdom I gave to him. Can really change his life when it came to him. But when it comes to this, I exist. Up near the upper echelon when I spit. The category is inflammatory enough to score me. I'm in my prime, I'm 5'9", I'm allegory. Get it, prime, 5'9", allegory. You can never take the crown cause it's true. Bless the mic for the gods, no hope. I move around on the low like a crook. Coming peace, yo, low, you're getting hooked. To avoid your ass and getting hooked. Stay put, the streets ain't Facebook. No Instagram, no Twitter beef, no TikTok. Avoid the block to avoid getting shot.
Yes, sir.
Haha.
That is definitely my favorite joint on there.
Thank you.
Yo, and you know, I said it before, and I said it to one of my boys earlier today. That the thing about this album too is that musically, there's nothing skippable. There's nothing that you. The music is going to keep you locked in. You know what I'm saying?
That's important. That's important.
That's good enough to keep them locked in to hear what you got to say. You know what I'm saying? Because this sometimes people will put out, you know, projects, and if the music ain't, if I'm not feeling the music, I'm gonna skip it before I even get a chance to hear what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And if your music is right there, man. Is, you know, some of the music is actually nostalgic, man. It takes you back. You know what I'm saying? And but I appreciate the album, man. 12 Jewels is dope, and I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And you know, we talked about this before. You and I got to do some work too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, most definitely. That's way overdue. So we definitely got to do that, man. But Rashad, man, I love you, fam, and I'm glad you came on the show. You know, I know you've been going through some things. Can you just talk just briefly? We don't have to get too deep about it, man, but just talk a little bit about what you've been going through. I know we were trying to link up, and you were mentioning that you know, you had to deal with a situation where, you know, you're going through dialysis. Right.
Absolutely.
And you know, I mentioned to you before that we have Congressman Payne that comes on once a month, and he talks about what he goes through, you know, with his situation with diabetes. He also has heart issues and stuff like that. And we just kind of want to share what we go through, let people know that we all human, and you know, we go through things, man, because there's people that's probably going through what you're going through right now. And if you just want to talk just briefly, you know, we ain't gotta, you know, go too deep into your personal situation, man, but just kick it a little bit as far as what, you know.
Right. Well, you know, one of the most profound songs on the album is a song called Tears, and it captures my life experience. But before I even get into it, you know, one thing that I want to encourage, specific to Black men, you know what I mean? The great Mo D had a song back in '86 where basically it's the hook is go see the doctor.
Go see the doctor.
Right. So we all know, we all know the information that's disseminated about Black men as far as our medical care, and that's not something that we're really in tune with. I encourage anybody in the listening audience, across the world, go see the doctor, right? I deal with, a family history of diabetes and high blood pressure. I lost my father to diabetes back in 1987. He was a 36-year-old man that did not follow up with his medical care. I mean, there was a lot of other things going on in his life that contributed to it, but nonetheless, I lost him at 36. I was 16, and ever since then, I've been on heightened alert. I was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 28. I did not take my health seriously. But it's a struggle. I mean, like when you hear information that says sugar is an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Sugar is an addiction. I mean, it's the number one drug in the world.
That's right. You tell it, son.
So,
you're right about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, not taking my health care seriously over the years, which have resulted, basically, long story short, into kidney failure. Right. But the jeweling of it all is my diabetes is under control, but my kidneys has failed. So as a result, for the past year, I've been on dialysis. I'm currently being processed to be placed on the donor list. That's a process in itself that I thought that, as soon as you start dialysis, you automatically get placed on the list. No, that's a process. So, that's just my life. And I'm taking it for what it's worth, because there's a jewel in it all. I mean, things could be a lot worse. Things could be better too, but they could be a lot worse because, the center that I go to, I see a lot of, individuals come in, and they come in on gurneys. They come in wheelchairs. They come in with, amputated body parts. And, I'm able to drive myself there. I'm able to drive myself from there. I'm, before we did this interview, that's where I'm coming from, dialysis. And, I'm able to function normally for the most part. I have some good days, I have some bad days, but overall, I function normally. So I think things, just put things into perspective for me that, healthcare is important. And, like I said, go see the doctor, because as a result of being diabetic, it's affected my blood pressure, it's affected my cholesterol level. All of the above, and all of that has an effect on the kidneys. And, and that's just what it is. Right now, my kidney function is about 5%. So as a result, I'm on dialysis 3 times a week. But again, things could be a lot worse.
Black seed oil.
Yeah.
Rashad, seed oil.
Yeah, that was do you have children?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I'm the baby, and that was one of the things that I spent with my dad. My father has sickle cell, and it affected his kidneys. So which caused him to be in dialysis 3 times a week, which meant I spent a lot of time by his side at East Orange General, sitting with him as he went through the process. And it's funny, I always say our show comes full circle. And you said a couple of things that, as DJ Rhino said, that Congressman Payne spoke about amputees, taking care of our bodies. And here's something that 2 different men that said the same exact thing: go see the doctor. So thank you for sharing that story. And I think it's really important. And, even thinking about, I'm looking at your album and how you have your album basically has an opening statement and a closing statement, an intro and an outro. And I don't know. And if you did, so what is the, your outro, the self-determination, what is that closing statement? What does that mean for you? And then we have a question that we have to ask everybody. So, but what your track number 14? What does that sell? Right. Although it's Khalid Muhammad's voice, what did it mean for you?
It's about really, simplistically speaking, doing for self, right? Taking your life. taking your life in your own hands, right? The most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us many lessons about doing for self. Khaled is a representation of that. Minister Farrakhan is a representation of that. The nation of gods and earths is a representation of that. Is a representation of that. You know what I mean? Doing for self, self-determination. And while you're being self-determined, you gotta also, as Khaled said, you gotta be self-defending. You gotta defend what
New
it
Black
is
Panther
as yours.
Party was a representation of that.
Yes, sir.
Right, absolutely. You gotta be, you gotta defend what is yours, whether your personal self, your individual self, your family, your property, your life in general. I mean, so that's really what the message is about. I think this music is a living example of just being determined, having that determined idea to represent the best part of yourself.
Thank you, and Rhino.
Stand on that.
And so, Rhino, what's this?
Black Seed Oil, that is Busha Kidney Funky.
What is that most important question that we have to ask him?
All right. Well, before I ask this question, Rashad, I just want to say, brother, I love you, man, and thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your story and your music. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna see each other continue like we do. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna see each other, man. But I definitely thank you for coming on, because this is the kind of thing I want to do, is bring my local Jersey artists on. And I truly believe in, you know what I'm saying, and have them on, and you talk about their music and talk about their story, man. You know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate you.
Listen, thank you for having me, man. Thank you for providing this platform, you know what I mean, to artists like myself, just people in general, right? You know what I mean? I feel like I could have been a part of this conversation and we didn't have to talk about music at all. You know what I mean? We could have just been, building on life. You know what I mean? So
exactly as we do when we see each other sometimes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Indeed. But now, so the big question that we always ask our guests, and this is a great question for you. Who in hip hop are you rocking right now? Like who's in your car right now? Who you've been rocking in your ear recently? Like who's really got you going right now? Besides yourself, I know you. You've been pushed through a lot.
Real talk. I don't listen to myself because I listen to myself through the lens of critique.
Right.
So we could take that off the record. But I got a classic hip hop playlist that I bang. It's about 60 hours of nothing but classic hip hop joints. As far as currently, like I'm in tune with lyricists. I enjoy J. Cole. I enjoy, Kendrick. I enjoy the whole Griselda movement. Royce is one of my favorites. But I'm a Rakim, KRS, G-Rap, Kane, Bodie and the Treacherous 3 type of dude. I mean, so you get him out with. You get my whip, you might hear all of that, but then I might, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Earth, Wind, and Fire is the greatest of all time across any genre. Earth, Wind, and Fire is the greatest of all time. So today,
thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank
today
you.
I was bumping.
We always try to tell people that's it.
Right. I was bumping the I Am album today. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yesterday it was Spirit and That's the Way of the World.
Yeah, man.
But sometimes I'm in a Donny Hathaway and Marvin Gaye mood. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm in a Shaka Khan mood. Shaka is the illest. You know what I mean? So
see, all of this is stuff that inspired.
Wait, Jonathan, you just started like you was hearing the music as he was saying the names. You should see the face that you had, Jonathan, as he was saying it. It was like you heard it. But Rashad, I also we just put a name. I put a name before you came on. One of our guests, he put out person he's listening to, and it happens to be his son. So we want you to check out Amir Says Nothing as well. And that's Amir Tiller's young brother.
I have to say, brother Conrad, right? Like I remember going to see him in Harlem when he was the minister of Mosque number 7.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
We talking late 80s.
Yeah,
back
like
when
89.
Back when Brother Khaled was still rocking with the nation. So you know what I mean? To see Brother Conrad now, it's like
after Khaled left.
You know what I mean? Transformation. But I remember Brother when he was Brother Conrad Muhammad. He was a dynamic young minister. I mean, so that's what's
Hip
up.
hop minister. That's what they call him.
Yeah. So, so well, thank you, and so and thank you, just bringing out Earth, Wind, and Fire and closing us out with that, and how everything comes full circle. I say that somehow, some way, our radio show is very purpose that and it's very organic that we come full circle somehow, some way every week, and that's something. And I know that we have to go back and tell Brother Conrad that, because he would have liked to. I mean, it's nice to get your flowers. If you would have made, you probably would have made him crack up when he said that, you know. And that's probably why he showed up so clear. That was probably organic that he showed up so clear tonight.
Listen,
so you can see him.
Go ahead.
We're all wrapping it up. We're all wrapping it up.
Go ahead. We are. Go ahead.
I was just saying it was just crazy.
Like 20 minutes past time.
But it was just crazy when I logged on and I heard his voice.
It was there.
I'm like, that's Conrad? Like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he's on here every month, too. He's on here once a month.
This week, on every second Friday,
So we are closing out for this week, and we're ending stuff off. It is, and we want to thank everyone for coming out and being here. It was a good session, and DJ Rhino, we got to do this a lot more often.
Yeah.
So, but that's another week. All politics are local. America's number one hip hop radio talk show, and that is it for this week, right? So,
and as we close out, Rashad, turn your light on so people can see who you are as we close out. Okay.
I was just saying that.
Move forward. The light.
I'm in my car, so the lighting in my car is kind of dim.
There you go. Stay right there. Stay right there.
There I go.
Lighting by lamplight. All right.
Jonathan, take us out.
All right.
Take us out, Jonathan.
All right. Well, that's it for next week.
Peace.
Don't stop.